gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It was pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Game studio, sponsored by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. And of course, we are streaming live, as we are every day, on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Tennessee Superbook is the #1 sports book in Las Vegas. D-Mase, Willy Donick, how we doing?
We're doing wonderful.
Hey.
It's a nice, bright, sunny day. And, we get to talk sports again. So there we go.
Best day ever.
Absolutely.
Nick Keyser is with us behind the glass. How we doing, Nick?
Doing great. Had a cup of coffee. Gonna go get another one, but ready for a good show.
Let's get it. Let's grind. Before we get into the nitty-gritty of what we want to start with, we just want to update everybody. The most recent update from Damar Hamlin, of course, Bill's safety, who fell to the ground on Monday Night Football, is still being treated at the University of Cincinnati Medical Center. He is still in critical condition and still being treated in the ICU. We will continue to keep you updated all day long with any information that we have about Damar Hamlin and his condition. But before we do that, I want to get into this because I feel like we have talked about this so many times, and fans probably feel the same way, that you always say, gosh, Mike Vrabel never gives us any information. Mike Vrabel keeps everything under lock and key, which I think is true to a certain extent. But I think that sometimes if you listen really closely to Mike Vrabel, if you learn how to speak Vrabelese, which is a language that I've had to learn how to become fluent in since I've started covering this football team, if you learn what he says, and if you really just listen closely, it's really not too difficult to figure out what he's thinking or to figure out what he thinks the keys to success for this football game, for this football team truly is. And I think his message to the team, to us as media, and to the fans, the message hasn't really wavered. The message hasn't changed over the last few weeks. And we heard it a few weeks ago after the Titans lost to the Bengals going in to the game against the Cincinnati Eagles. He pointed out something that he thought was going to be crucial for this football team. This was Mike Vrabel a few weeks ago going into the Eagles game.
For the Titans, staying on schedule offensively is key number 2. What does that mean?
Well, that just means being real efficient. We can't live in 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. We have to continue to be efficient on 1st and 2nd down and pick up first downs or have 3rd and short. Really Washington is the blueprint. They beat these guys in Philly, caused 4 turnovers, but what they did was they had a bunch of 3rd and 1s, they had a bunch of short yardage opportunities that they converted. They possessed the ball, and they were able to score.
So there you go. That was a few weeks ago going into the Eagles game, which now feels like light years away. And the key to the game was stay on schedule. And that means, staying out of 3rd and long situations, picking up first downs, moving the football, staying on schedule, meaning continue to keep the chains moving, continue to move the ball. And I say that message hasn't wavered. That message hasn't changed because this was Mike Vrabel yesterday.
Running good plays and executing good plays keeps us on schedule, not having unforced errors, penalties that I think are avoidable. Some penalties are what they are, but some of them are avoidable. That's what helps stay on schedule. And starts with the substitution, starts with the operation, the cadence, all those things that we're going to have to be great with on the road.
So there you go. Staying on schedule continues to be the message from Mike Vrabel. And that means picking up first downs, getting out of 3rd and long situations. So even though the message hasn't changed, even though the message has been, you got to stay on schedule week after week after week, ever since that Eagles game, the message has maintained over those weeks that the Titans haven't been winning games. So even though the message is staying on schedule, the Titans aren't necessarily executing that message. 7 of 16 on 3rd down, only 17 first downs to the Cowboys' 26. The Titans haven't been staying on schedule. So is it just this team just isn't good enough? Or this team isn't taking the message to heart?
Well, they haven't been good enough. I think staying on schedule is, correct me if I'm wrong, Derek, that would be your basic football principles,
Yeah, that's
right? That's
football
what every
101.
football team wants to stay on schedule. Now, where I think he's coming from is when the Chiefs are 3rd and 10 or 11, an explosive offense, those are the teams that I think you still don't feel great if you're the defense. It's 3rd and 10. You're just like, well, they got Patrick Mahomes down there. They can get 3rd and 10, right? Those are the elite offenses. He knows they don't have that kind of offense. So it's even more important, I think, for the Titans to do that, and they haven't been able to do it. Of course, between those 2 times that he said that, he lost his quarterback, right? It's a little tougher. And the other part that's been consistent, even when they had Ryan Tannehill, A, Tannehill was hobbled, couldn't move, and B, they can't protect any quarterback for very long. They don't have the offensive line to do it. That makes it hard to pick up 3rd and longs where it takes a little longer for the receivers to get down the field, right? It's pretty simple.
Well, it's hard to pick up the 3rd and 1 with an offensive line like that. This is, football 101 or offense 101. Stay on schedule. Or if you're the defense, get the offense off schedule, put pressure on them, get them out of their comfort zone. If they're a pass team, force them to run the football. And then we stop them from there. Make them one-dimensional. In this situation, this was over a month ago when he made those first statements. And he's made them before, but I'm saying starting a losing streak when it started with they got on this streak when it started with Cincinnati and the Eagles and obviously the Jaguars and so forth and so on. But that was over a month ago when that message was presented to everybody. And we've heard it before. So a month later, you're still preaching the same message. That tells me one only thing. If I have to tell my son, being transparent here, if my kids come to me as they have, and 5 months ago they said, Dad, there's some things that we need to talk to you about, and this we're not seeing eye to eye or whatnot. Yeah. And, it's like, okay, all right. But then they got to come back 5 months later and say, Dad, you got to get better at these certain things because you're not, we don't see the change or whatnot. Okay. Well, we have a problem because in the midst of the first time you told me and then the most recent time, nothing really has changed. Maybe it's changed a little bit, but not enough. Well, we have a problem here now, and we need to really seriously talk about it. It's the same way with the Titans. December 4th is when the Eagles game was, or December 3rd, I think, one of the two. So we're talking a month later, and he's still preaching the same message. That tells me one or two things. Either they are slow to react to it, or they're just not getting it. Or it could be a third one. They're just not good enough. And I think it's probably the latter of the two, that somehow, some way the information is getting cut off, and then they're just not good enough at this point. So no matter how many times he says, we got to get ahead of, we got to stay ahead of sticks. We got to stay ahead of sticks. Everybody in the room understands that. Everybody knows it. It's not like it's a secret.
It's a basic football principle, but it's not something that they're doing.
But it's also it's they want to do it that way by design with the identity that they've built. It's been harder because of the injuries, etc. But I also have this come to mind. Like, there are some teams that will attack. If it's they're willing to throw down the field and have it be 3rd and 10 with taking 2 shots down the field. But that's really not how the Titans are. They want to go 2nd and 6. They want to go 3rd and 2. That's, to me, part of what he's talking about.
But
they're doing it differently.
But they can't
through
do
Derrick
it. They
no.
can't.
Well, they haven't done it.
They haven't done it in 6 weeks. They can't do it because of the personnel that they have. And then on top of that, the injuries. He's preaching his word, but it's not penetrating. Why is not penetrating? Because they don't have the talent for it for his words to sink in, and then for them to go out there and do it on the field. They don't have the consistent talent, and they are not consistent as a team. From an offensive standpoint, the offensive coordinator hasn't been consistent. The lineup hasn't been consistent. The play hasn't been consistent. So when you're preaching this message,
there's a part of that you can't control due to injuries.
Yeah. A part of it you
just
can't
that's
control.
out of your control.
Yeah, but when you're preaching this message, that's why we gotta. If you listen to it and nothing's changed, that's why I say next year is going to be a key year for this Titans team, because if that message is not penetrating and things are not changing, what do we say? The message is getting stale. So what do we need to do then? We need to move on, or we need to think about reorganizing some things. Mm-hmm. Well, if he's still preaching this same message after 6 weeks and they're on a six game losing streak, is the message getting stale now? It's a honest question. Is the message getting stale? I understand they have injuries and it's a part of it, but is that message that he's preaching stay on task offense? Because he's really talking to the offense. He's not talking to anybody else.
Oh no, I mean that's it.
Stay on
It's an
task.
mindset.
Eventually, those guys are thinking we know we got to stay on task. We just can't. For whatever we can't do it, whether it be because of injury or guys are inconsistent. We can't do it.
And it's also, since that Eagles game, the defense hasn't been able to pick up the slack. Since then, they've lost Fulton, they've lost Long, they lost Autry right around that time. Simmons has been not nearly the same player. They lost Hooker during that time, so they don't have the same defense. So that's been another thing that's exacerbated the problem there. Mm-hmm. Now, that's why I saw a fairly encouraging injury report yesterday. I saw some guys out there, at least limited participation. So, they're going to give it a go. I mean, this is one of those where it is, if you can play at all, there is no next week, right? You've got to try to give it a go this week, which is why I'm a little surprised. So Long must be nowhere close to playing if they're not activating him by now. That's at least my thought. Now, maybe we'll get surprised today and we'll get news on that, but it's not looking that way. But I'm hoping the defense can at least be some semblance of what it was the first time he made those comments. Of course, when he made those comments, John Robinson was still the GM. They were 7-4. They had come off of a tough loss against the Bengals where they were right in the game. Could have gone either way, I thought. They got beat by a team that just was a little bit better than them. It wasn't panic time at all. But since then, things have changed drastically, I think. And it really took a turn, obviously, after the Eagles game, and they dropped the bomb with the Robinson news.
Yeah, that was, a seismic shift in this organization. And D-Mase, to your point about the message getting stale, it's difficult to change the message when the message is that core of a principle of football. Stay on schedule, move the ball, pick up first down, stay out of third and long situations. Those are such basic principles of football, and specifically to this offense, that's not made to operate in 3rd and 9. So how do you change that message?
You have to, one, you don't even bring it up anymore. You don't, because they know, they understand. That's like telling somebody something constantly over and over again every time you see them. Well, you got to do this. Well, I know. Stop it. Leave me alone. I'm not going to want to be around you. You keep on telling me that. I know what I need to do. And maybe I can't do it because of some limitations that I have, but I know I got to do it. Well, that's the Titans team. They know what they got to do from an offensive standpoint, but we have given all these reasons why they can't. Whether it be the injuries, which is a real thing, whether it be the inconsistencies of the offensive coordinator, whether it be the inconsistencies of the play of the team, period, each individual player, whether it be guys not living up to the sort of the billing when they brought them in here. There's a bunch of things. They understand that and they realize it. So if you say it too many times, I'm going to stop listening because I know what I need to do. Leave me alone and let me do it. Okay? Leave us alone and let us do it. We know what we need to do as an offense. We don't need for you, and he has to be a head coach. So there are things he has to do. But I guarantee you, he's not walking in there. He may say it on the radio, being interviewed, but he's not walking in there every day. I hope he's not telling them, y'all need to stay on schedule. Guys are like, dude, we know this. That's like somebody walking up to you every day and say, you need to coach better. You need to coach better. Your team needs to stop losing.
And at what point
Vrabel will be like, duh, like I don't know that.
At what point is it no longer a message for the players, but for the offensive coordinator? Of, look, we cannot be in the situation of 3rd and 12. And sometimes that's play calling. Sometimes that's committing penalties. But the message of staying on schedule is what I think is Vrabel's number one key to the game against the Jags. The last time they played the Jags, they executed that key. But the difference in that game is what I think is Mike Vrabel's second key to the game. And we will get into that coming up next. Plus, your thoughts, your calls, your texts all show long. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
Have they truly been tested yet?
I really want this to be a good game.
Michelle and Junie, every Saturday morning at 9. Presented by Superbook Sports and the Nashville Jam Company.
I think Junie and I are going to go hit breakfast/brunch there after the show.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
When Smashville wants to rock.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. Looking to the sky to save me, looking for a sign of life, 'cause it's too cold for you here.
We are Nashville's rock station. 102.9 The Buzz.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game in a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Are you a fan of Twin Peaks? Sign up for their e-club to stay up to date on all things Twin Peaks and score free stuff. Signing up is easy. Just visit twinpeaksrestaurant.com/peaks-club to get started today.
Want to kick off the new year without any credit card debt? If that sounds good to you, you can do it with Loan Pronto's Express Equity line of credit. Wipe out all those credit card bills right now. Hey, Willy Donick here. Rates are down, and it's a great move to get on more solid financial footing for the new year. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a portion of the equity you have and enjoy a rate that's a whole lot less than what the banks charge on credit cards. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity credit line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. You can access up to 95% of your home's equity. Use that money to pay off those high-interest credit card loans of any type. Credit cards, personal loans, car loans, whatever. Consolidate everything into one easy payment. Even if you did a whole total refi last year, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program and keep your main loan intact. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Wednesday, January 4th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain the spark in your bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today, Wednesday, 615-576-5000.
Want to weigh in on the conversation?
It's a brain booster.
Slide into our DMs. Or just text or call at 615-737-1025. Our phone line is driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Where you have to be at your best. You know, I think everybody has to be at their best, in all three phases. And there's been some games where, I thought we played well offensively, whether it's, in a 4-minute drive where, you're kneeling on the ball and you're not, you don't have to go down and score. Not to say that that's, an excuse for, where we're at, from a production standpoint or a scoring standpoint. But we have to be, at our best, not turning the football over, or when we're in a 2-minute drive to go down there and be able to score points, to win the football game.
There you go. That was Mike Vrabel at the podium yesterday. He was asked about scoring on the first possession. And that's been really key for this Titans team to at least get points on the board in the first half, which allows them and affords them the kind of abysmal offensive play that we've seen traditionally from this football team throughout this season. But even when asked about scoring on the first drive, even when asked about getting up early, Mike Vrabel still mentions not turning the football over. And I think that was a theme that I've seen from Mike Vrabel for a few weeks now, is no matter what the question is, the answer will always turn to don't turn the football over, which I think is the second key to this game. Because what I thought the first key was, which I think that Mike Vrabel made pretty clear, was staying on schedule. Well, the last time the Titans played the Jags, they did that. They had 22 first downs, Jags, 22. On third down, they were 5 of 10. Jacksonville 6 of 13. So while the Titans' stats aren't great in and of itself compared to the Jags, it's not like they got completely blown out in terms of moving the chains like they did maybe against Dallas. 26 Dallas first downs to the Titans 12. Just a pretty gross margin there. So the Titans stayed on schedule against the Jags, but the difference was turning the football over. The Jags scored 17 points off of turnovers. So I think that's number 2 keys to the game. Don't turn the football over.
No, you can't turn the football over because this league is so closely contested that sometimes the difference between winning a game and losing a game is, like you said, who turns the ball over, who doesn't make those mistakes in critical positions of the game. And for the last 6 weeks, the Titans have been on the bad end of each one of them, turning the ball over, getting penalties. They can't do that. They're not an offense, or they're not a team that is capable of coming back after they've had all those things happen. They don't have this, explosive passing attack. Whatever they do it because of the running game. And when you're down 10, 17, 14 points, trying to run the ball in the second half becomes very difficult because you got to score points, especially if you're not getting stops. This team is not a second half team. They haven't been all season. I think one time this season where they may have scored over, 14 points in the second half. So if that's indeed the case, you can't go into halftime, having an interception or a fumble, not getting an interception, and then first drive of the third quarter, you give up a touchdown. Now you put yourself completely behind the 8 ball. You're not coming back. Why? Because 1, you're not built to come back, and 2, you haven't played well in the second half of just about any game this year. So how do you then expect, after turning the ball over 3 times in the first half, how do you expect to come back? You can't.
Yeah, they're not built that way. It's more important for them. And once again, we're not reinventing the wheel here. Not turning the ball over is a basic principle that you have to do well at.
In any sport.
In any sport. They were doing well with that. They were doing the little things. That was probably the best thing they had going for them. But I think when you lose players, key players, it does become a little harder to hold on to the ball.
Well, your key players is the one that's turned the ball over.
That's the thing about that Jacksonville game. And we were just talking about this during the break. Let's look at the end of the half. Remember, they had already turned it over twice, but they're still leading the game, 14-13. Jacksonville kicks the kickoff out of bounds. It's the 2-minute warning, or it's a little over 2 minutes left, 3 minutes left. They got the ball at the 40 because the kickoff goes out of bounds. Derrick Henry has 2 carries for 23 yards. He hits a 21-yard run right before the 2-minute warning. Then they get the screen pass to him, and so inside of 2 minutes, this should be the last drive of the half. You should be no worse than up 14-13. He hits that screen pass, and now you're going, hey.
Everybody's feeling good.
You got a chance, and you've already had a great half. Remember, Derrick Henry was tearing them up in the first half. The offense was feeling good other than the turnovers. You're like, hey, we're moving the ball today. We got some rhythm. We're looking good. But he fumbles the ball. Not only that, Jacksonville then comes back. They were going to run the half out. They were running the clock out. And all of a sudden, I'm trying to think of the
They get
the turnaround play. They hit a couple of big passes.
Was it to Ingram or was it to Zay Jones? I think one
I'm
of
looking
them.
at the play-by-play. They hit a 23-yard pass to Kirk with a minute 49. Then a minute 18 at the 45, no gain. And at that point, they let the clock run for 34 seconds. Then they hit one to Kirk, they hit one to Ingram, and then they hit one to Zay Jones for a touchdown.
That should have been an interception.
Interesting. But you see how that game turned. That was a 10-point swing. Instead of being ahead at the half, you're down at the half. They come out in the second half, and they're super flat, and Jacksonville takes it to another level and pretty much blows them out.
Well, and that's why I think that is so critical, is not turning the ball over. And I understand that moving the chains and turning the ball over, you're probably thinking to yourself, duh. And Mike Vrabel is probably saying to himself, I'm so frustrated having to repeat this message week after week after week, but it's not something that the Titans are doing. And that's why not turning the ball is so important, because it doesn't just kill the momentum on your sideline. When Derrick Henry lost that first fumble, there was a noticeable shift in energy on that sideline because the Titans came out cooking. First quarter, I thought they looked great. Derrick Henry was running the ball well. I thought they were using Derrick Henry appropriately, where they kind of abandoned the run in the second half. But it was a seismic energy shift once Derrick Henry fumbled the football, because the Jacksonville started scoring, putting points on the board. You gave them opportunities that they didn't afford, and now you are losing momentum. You're losing your opportunities to score, and it's coming from your top players and your leaders and your key players on your sidelines.
Yeah, you can't have that, and Vrabel has said this before. Listen, our top players, they got to play. It's plain and simple, and they have been for the most part. Derrick Henry has been Derrick Henry. He has fumbled the ball uncharacteristically a lot, but it is what it is. But from a running standpoint, he's been the dominating running back that you have asked him to be for the last couple of years. Ryan Tannehill, when healthy, he has played well. And then the tight ends sort of picked their game up, and we know what the defense is doing. He's been preaching this and wanting this team to do it. But when you have turnovers like this and you're not a team that's built to, come back from a certain deficit, then how do you expect to win? This is not what he deems Tennessee Titan football. Penalties, turnovers. He even mentioned substitutions and stuff like that. This is not what he envisioned when he took this job. And all of a sudden, for whatever reason, this team has sort of reverted back to who they were prior to John Robinson and then subsequently Mike Vrabel getting here. This is a team that is basically beating themselves a lot, turning the ball over, not, doing the things that they need to do offensively, defensively at times, giving up big plays. This is what they used to do. But now for some reason they're doing it again. For whatever reason. We can blame it on injuries, and it's valid, but, injuries alone isn't the reason why all these things are happening.
So, not beating themselves. That's the number one message from Mike Vrabel in a nutshell. Don't beat yourself. That's been his message. He's been sharing that message, both to the media and I'm sure in the locker room as well, for the past few weeks. So why is that message not being received? We'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your texts, your calls, 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063, The Game.
ESPN Titans NFL Nation reporter Teron Davenport brings knowledge.
3 touchdowns. He was processing, getting rid of the ball quickly.
Passion.
Make no mistake about it. He absolutely has to hit the ground running.
And expertise on the two-tone blue and the NFL. Join TD every Monday at 11, Thursdays at 3, and Friday morning at 8 for all the latest on your favorite team. Teron Davenport is presented by Craneworks on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
If you missed the latest from Robbie and Rex Road.
The story, and we've talked about it, from what he went from last year to a guy that barely got on the field for Tennessee to the best wide receiver in college football this year, winning the Biletnikoff Award. I mean, it's a pretty remarkable story that in 1 year, such a dramatic turnaround in how Jalen Hyatt was viewed. I mean, we knew from the moment he stepped on the field a couple years ago, Joe, that he had a lot of ability. I mean, he played well against Alabama, on that last god-awful Jeremy Pruitt team. So we knew that he had some ability out there, and for whatever reason last year, whether it was the work ethic or the opportunity, whatever it was, he just didn't find his way onto the field. And we talked a lot this offseason, even heading into fall camp, about Jalen Hyatt and the buzz that he was creating around Knoxville. And he certainly followed it up in the regular season. He wins the Biletnikoff Award. And we were talking about this yesterday. There's not a Tennessee fan that watched that Tennessee-Alabama game that will ever forget Jalen Hyatt's performance in that game with the 5 touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, obviously that's a Hendon Hooker game, and that was a game that, at the time put him in the lead for the Heisman. But there are also some people like, well, why wouldn't Jalen Hyatt be a Heisman candidate as well? I mean, just those, those plays. I mean, there's nothing like a long touchdown catch to like change a game, and he did that several times in the same game. It's just amazing.
Tune in Robbie and Rex with Robbie Stanley and Joe Rexrode. Weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Coration CBD products. Coration began as our family's mission to provide the Nashville community with locally and organically sourced CBD products. We are passionate about providing high-quality CBD products for everyday use. Tinctures, topicals, and pet products too. We are a Pick 10 company. Our hemp is organically grown and produced in Nashville, Tennessee from sustainably sourced non-GMO genetics. All of our products are lab tested. Find all of our products at CorationCompany.com.
TSU basketball lives on 102.1 The Ville. Join Coach Brian Petty Collins and the Tigers for every great moment in the OVC. On your home for TSU basketball, 102.1 The Ville and the Ville app.
Hey Nashville, it's Max Kellerman, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
There's a reason Josh Dobbs hadn't had a start before Thursday night. I mean, the offense, look, I wrote this last night. You got to do the same thing they've been talking about for 6 weeks, and they haven't done. They have to not commit penalties and not have drops and not give up untimely sacks. In this streak, the first drive of every game while they're preaching this, they've had either a penalty or a sack. In every game but one, the Jacksonville game. And in the game where they didn't have that, they marched down the field in 10 plays, 76 yards, and scored a touchdown. But Vrabel doesn't seem to get that. To me, Joe, tell me if you think I'm wrong, but he keeps just saying, well, we just have to do these things and we'll be fine, and seems to be disconnected from the fact that in 5 out of 6, they haven't done those things.
There you go. That was Paul Kaharski on Robbie and Rexrode this morning. Saying, look, the message of don't turn the football over, play clean football, don't make mistakes. That message just isn't getting through. And Paul views it through the lens of Mike Vrabel doesn't seem to grasp it. That Mike Vrabel continues to hammer this message in of saying don't turn the football over and don't make mistakes. And Paul's looking at it like, Vrabel, you there's a disconnect between you and this team. There's some sort of disconnect that starts with Mike Vrabel. But I have to disagree because I don't know what more Mike Vrabel can do. You coach it, and you tell them what to do, and you continue to hammer it in a practice. But at a certain point, there's only so much a coach can do.
Dennis Daly is the left tackle. Malik Willis has been the quarterback. They didn't have Traylon Burks. They just got him back. That it's obvious why they haven't been able to get the message. So you can have the message all day, but they don't have the Jimmies and Joes right now. It's very simple. They're trying to make it work with a very depleted group of players right now. And this is what I like about Mike Vrabel. He's going to keep going with that. He will never say, well, guys, we have so-and-so hurt. We got so-and-so hurt. He doesn't do that.
Yeah.
He could. Some coaches do. Say, hey, look, we're missing a lot of guys right now. There's ways of saying it.
Oh, he says
in the Vrabelese that you like to say,
Uh-huh.
Caroline. He could use some Vrabelese and drop hints in there. He doesn't do it. And I admire that. But let's be honest, it's very obvious. Paul there, he's trying to reinvent the wheel there. It's very simple. No, they don't have an NFL quarterback. They have a replacement level guy who has replaced a draft pick that wasn't ready to play at this league. And before that, at the start of the slump, they had Ryan Tannehill battling on a bad ankle with no offensive line and no receivers.
I mean, listen, there's valid points across the board. There are. I understand what Paul is saying. I really do. And Vrabel has sort of, did that. Well, this is happening, this is happening. He does it in his own way. You just got to read it. You just got to listen to it. He's saying all these things, but he's not saying it. Mm-hmm. You see? But Paul is right. Like, listen, they know what their limitations are. Everybody knows what they are.
Yes.
Vrabel continuing to, deliver this message. Okay, we understand what he's saying, but because of whatever reasons there are, it's not sinking in. Or if it is sinking in, they can't do it. It's either you're coaching it or you're allowing it to happen. One of the two. And that's what we always say. But I think in this situation, he's coaching and he's almost allowing it to happen because he has no other choice. It's not like he can go and get, Tony Berselli, a rookie Tony Berselli and put him at left tackle. It's not like he can go get whoever at center, the best center out there, put him at center or left guard. He doesn't have that luxury. So if he doesn't have that luxury, then what he's teaching, he wants it to get better, but it's almost like he can't. There's nothing he can do about it because these guys are not capable of doing it consistently. You have guys that would either be backups on teams or guys that would have a hard time finding a place on a football team. They're on his team now. Those guys that have hard times finding places on other teams and are backup or third string on other teams, they're starters for him now. So no matter how many times I say it, no matter how many times I coach it, it's not happening. And I have no other recourse. It's not like I can take Dennis Daly and pull him and bench him and say, okay, you go in. He can't do it because he has nobody else. So it's like throw your hands up in the air.
Dennis Daly is a huge one, but also they lost Nate Davis. They lost Ben Jones. They don't have. They're on a total.
Even Nicholas Petit-Frere.
He's a rookie. He's a
rookie.
And he's hurt. And he's hurt.
That's what I'm saying.
Dylan Radins. How much did we talk about Dylan Radins all throughout the thing? He was playing, and now he's hurt. Like you're down to the scraps.
But to all of this, D-Mase, I feel like your message is the Titans just aren't good enough.
And I've said that. How many times have I said that?
You've said that for a long time.
They were good enough until they lost a huge wave of players.
They were good enough
to win the division.
They were good enough on the surface. But underneath the surface, if anybody got hurt, and I remember saying this, if any one of those guys go down, this team has a problem because they have no depth.
But I think at this point, with all of the injuries, I don't know what team in the NFL has enough depth to make up for the amount of injuries that the Titans are experiencing.
And there's no coach who could magically cure that.
No, that's not a Vrabel thing. But if the position that the Titans are in, your starting quarterback's on IR. You are riddled with injury. Some guys coming back this week. But even where they are right now, I don't feel confident that this team with Josh Dobbs at quarterback and with injuries across the offensive line and key players defensively out and injured, that they can go on the road in a playoff game and beat Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, or go on the road to Buffalo and beat Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, because they're just not good enough to beat those teams. They're not better than the Bills or the Bengals. Maybe even at full strength, I don't think that they can compete with the Bills. They did keep it close with the Bengals, though. But my point being, I don't think that they have to be at 100% full strength to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. I don't think it's a matter of they're just not good enough right now to beat the Jacksonville Jags. So go back to Mike Vrabel's keys to the game of don't turn the football over and stay on schedule offensively. And I'll even add, play good defense, get to the quarterback. I think that's all the Titans need to do to at least beat the Jags. And that's all that we are all asking them to do this week. I don't think they need to be at 100% full strength to beat the Jags. I don't think that they are significantly worse than this Jags team. Just play clean football.
Well, I think we're shortchanging the Jaguars here. The Jaguars is a improving team each week. They're a young team, really good coach. They're improving each week. It's sort of like the Titans were in 2016. They were a young group. They were changing some things, but they were a young group, but they were getting better each week. Why? Because they had a good coach. They had a system in place. They knew exactly what they wanted to do. That's the Jacksonville Jaguars. We can't shortchange what they've been able to do. They've gotten better each and every week. Now, we can look at them and say, well, if the Titans don't turn the ball over this many times or they don't do it, well, that's a part of football. It happens.
And that's what I'm saying.
You know,
If you just play basic, clean football.
But even if they play basic, clean football, it's still going to be hard to beat the Jacksonville Jaguars. Why? Because this team has a lot of momentum right now. This team has a lot of confidence. They believe they are the best team in the conference. They believe they can play with anybody in the National Football League. Why? Because of the quarterback. Because of what he's been able to do. He's gotten better. We already said when he was coming in, he was a generational quarterback. We questioned last year, but the question was, is it the coach or is it the player? Well, we see now it was the coach last year because this guy has gotten tremendously better as a player. But even with that, this team, if everything is across the board even, I'm not going to sit here and say it's 100%. I'm going to pick the Titans. The Jaguars are a very good team, but a young team, an experienced team. The Titans are a good team, a veteran team. Those two teams go head to head. To me, who has the better quarterback?
It's not even close.
That's not
The Jags has a better quarterback.
Even with
If
Ryan
the
Tannehill on the
Jags
field.
don't do anything to beat themselves, they have a better shot at winning this game because of their quarterback. That's what we need to be talking about.
Yep.
The Titans making the Jags commit turnovers and do dumb stuff. That's what we need to be talking about. Because if the Jags don't do that, they have the better team at this point.
I agree, and I'll be honest. I'm surprised the line is only 6.5. Given the direction of the two teams right now, and the game is in Jacksonville, how's the line only 6.5? I'm really surprised.
I think there's one reason why, and he wears number 22. I think that's a big reason why. Because
he's done well against them, no question.
I mean, almost 100 yards in a single quarter last time they played.
It's been the Jags and Houston. He's been able to dominate.
Just been rolling. And wow, I mean, figure that. You can run the ball well against Houston. But I'll ask you both this. Let's say Josh Dobbs throws for 215 yards, a touchdown, 0 interceptions. Derrick Henry has 145 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns. Titans defense gets 3 sacks.
It's hard to,
I'd feel pretty good about the Titans being able to win that way.
Yeah, but then you got to tell me, what does Trevor Lawrence do? Because when do those 3 sacks come? Are they at the end of the game? Are they just a stack in the first quarter, sack in the second, sack in the third? How does Trevor Lawrence play? If Trevor Lawrence is...
But just looking at what the Titans want to do, which is moving the chains, don't turn the ball over, play good defense.
If they win a time of possession, the Titans, by controlling the football with the run, then I think they have a better shot at beating Jacksonville. If they keep Trevor Lawrence off the field and they stay on the field, again, Derrick Henry doesn't have to rush for 145 yards or 150 yards. It'd be great, and it seems like he could do that every time against the Jags, but he doesn't have to. What he needs to do is control the pace of the game. 3 yards here, 4 yards here. Stay on course with your plays and make it 3rd and 3 or 3rd and 4 where I can do anything from there. So if Derrick Henry controls the clock with his running, not necessarily having 150 or 200 yards, if he has 110 yards but controls the clock at the right time, Titans win. Or they have a better shot at winning.
Can I get an interception in there or a fumble with one of the sacks or something like that?
Right.
I don't.
And
you
then
need to win the turnover battle. I think.
Don't commit turnovers and force turnovers. It's all pretty. It's all
Plus
pretty
in the
basic,
turnovers.
right?
So in the first game, they did what they like to do defensively. They took the running game away. Travis Etienne, 17 carries for 32 yards. They took him out of the game. But Lawrence went wild, 368 yards. And 3 touchdowns. Like, you're going to give up some yards against the Jaguars. It won't be easy to completely shut them down, even if you get everybody back. But you've got to get some turnovers in there. You've got to stop them in the red zone. I think that's what you need.
right into your phones on this coming up next. Anything is on the table of Mike Vrabel's game plan, what you think it should be, your predictions for the Titans-Jags game this weekend. We'll get to your phones coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, and hey, this Sunday, tune in for the NFL postgame show with Jonathan Hutton and Chad Withrow, live from 6th and Peabody, located at 423 6th Avenue South from 4 to 6 p.m. Postgame show is brought to you by Renter's Warehouse, Two Rivers Ford, now with a huge inventory of in-stock vehicles to choose from. Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today.
Your home for the MTSU Blue Raiders is 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. Every touchdown.
Yes, touchdown.
Every three.
Free ball, yes, sir.
It all lives here.
Middle Tennessee.
You can also hear the Blue Raiders in the Borough on 97.5. Middle Tennessee Athletics on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
If you missed the latest from Stillman and Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
And so I'm watching these games, and I'm reminded about how we think it's crazy that the Chargers would lose this week or that the Ravens would win or something like that. But I think it is very possible that we could see the unexpected, just like the Eagles losing last week to the Saints yesterday, and we see all of a sudden it's the Ravens who are coming in here. And I don't know if you guys watched the Ravens yesterday. I think the Titans can beat the Ravens. And so this is just how football works. It's a one-game deal. It's an interception here. Kevin Byard picked off a pass by Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson got called for a face mask that didn't happen. And the Titans went up 7-0. The Ravens that year, who had been one of the best short yardage teams in the NFL ever, they converted every 3rd and 2 and every 4th and 2 the entire season, I think. A 4th and 1, they didn't get it. The next play, Tannehill hits Khalif Raymond. It's 14-0, and now Lamar Jackson has to throw him back into the game. We saw the Titans play the Chargers 3 weeks ago. That game went right down to the wire. Who's to say at Nissan Stadium it wouldn't be similar? Better players back for the Titans. Danico Autry's in. Christian Fulton is in. Amani Hooker is in. Who's to say that it wouldn't be a better result? So you all can poo-poo the idea that making the playoffs isn't that big of a deal or that you care more about the 11th overall pick in next year's draft. I am here to tell you that I want to see what can happen in the playoffs because this is how the NFL works. It's one game.
Tune in Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Happy New Year and Happy New You from Houston Clinic Orthopedics, conveniently located where you live and work, with various locations in and around the Nashville area. Houston's physicians specialize in spine, joint replacement, knee, hip, upper extremity, and many other orthopedic conditions. At Houston Clinic Orthopedics, they strictly adhere to all CDC guidelines for the patient's and staff safety. To experience world-class orthopedic care and see a list of all Houston physicians and specialties, visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online today.
He's got big takes.
It's not that freaking hard. Hand the ball to Henry.
Small takes.
You have to defend your decision.
But all takes.
They win, they lose. Just invested a lot into this game. I thought it was the worst press conference.
He is Jared Stillman.
A guy that sits in a room and does his own thing for 4 hours a day.
Weekdays from 2 to 6. Stillman and Company. Presented by TriStar Moving on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
How do the Titans win this weekend?
That's a great question. Look, I think, the formula definitely is run the football, play really good defense, don't turn the football over. And, look, I think that's, it's kind of generic, and it's, probably been the plan for the Titans for a while. It's just been easier said than done. And then I think this, look, the job that Doug Peterson has done, with that football team, I think is, commendable. And I think Trevor Lawrence's development has been real. So I think there's part of it, too, where, in terms of defending Trevor, I think it's different than defending him last year. I think that you have to find ways to confuse him. I think it was easily done in the past. I don't think it's as easily done now. And so I think that's, part of what you need to try to do with him, and he's done a good job of seeing things.
There you go. That was ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck on the show yesterday. And it seems pretty simple. Play good defense, run the ball, play clean football. It's what we've been saying all day. It's what Mike Vrabel has been saying all month over the past few weeks. But as promised, right into your phones. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com, 615-737-1025. If you have a thought, but one texter texts in and says, I think Henry's fumble is what really changed the game against Jacksonville. And I would probably agree, and that's why you cannot turn the football over. D-Mase, to your point, I don't think that this Jacksonville team is a team that can make a run in the playoffs and be that surprise team and, make it to the AFC Championship game. But this is a Jacksonville team that's heating up. This is a Jacksonville team that if you give them opportunities, they're going to be able to capitalize on it. The Titans were victims of that just a few weeks ago. And that was the turning point of the game. Derrick Henry's fumble and Jacksonville running it in for a touchdown. So, yes, you cannot turn the ball over.
Yeah, you can't. This Jacksonville Jaguar team reminds me of the Jacksonville Jaguar team, 4 years ago when they went to the AFC Championship game?
With Blake Bortles?
With Blake Bortles.
So what year was that? That was a little...
It was 2012, was it?
I think it was a little
15,
more recent.
15, 16?
I think it was 2016 because
16.
Isn't that when the Patriots beat the Titans after the Titans had beaten the Chiefs and Alex Smith?
I think I'm not sure.
Remember that game at Arrowhead?
Uh-huh.
That was Malarkey was still the coach.
Yeah.
So that was 2016. Is that right?
Yeah, because he ended up getting fired 2016.
Because I think that was the year that Bortles somehow they got there. They had the Patriots on the ropes.
Yeah,
in that
game. They should have won that game. They should have won that game. But that was a team that did what? I think they were at the particular time they were coached pretty well. They had a really good defense, but they were getting turnovers.
Yeah, they had Jalen Ramsey. Exactly. They had a good
and their
defense.
Offense was They were not beating themselves. The offense wasn't. Yeah. With Blake Bortles at quarterback, I think he had probably his best year as a quarterback.
He did okay. I see this team though as a team that's definitely capable of more explosive stuff,
and that's because of the quarterback. What I'm saying is that this team is sort of built the same way. A lot of young talent.
Being bad for years and
exactly. A lot of young talent. A good coach. I think the coach is better this time around than it was last time. And what changes it even more is they have their quarterback now. So this team can possibly, if they do indeed get in the playoffs, I wouldn't want to play them if I'm a Cincinnati team or if I'm a Buffalo or if I'm a Kansas. I would not want to play the Jaguars in the playoffs. I just wouldn't.
Think about whoever wild card won is going to end up being, right? That could be Cincinnati, I guess. It could be the Chargers. They're sitting there. Who do you think they'd rather play? It's like, remember they always ask the team, hey, Jacksonville's playing the Titans. You guys are waiting to see the winner. Who would you rather play? Oh, I don't know. They're both really good teams. Usually, privately, they're all going to be sitting there. Man, I hope Tennessee wins that game. Mm-hmm. Jacksonville is scary. I got Trevor Lawrence. I got fast players. They have run after the catch. They're only going to get better. They're a team on the rise. Whereas you've got Tennessee is much more of a team just trying to salvage, trying to scrape together a lineup that could find a way to win one game. You know what I mean? It's like it's not even close how the two teams are being perceived right now.
I think I agree with you on the perception. Because on the outside looking in, everybody else is looking at the Titans like their starting quarterback is a guy that they plucked off the street that has one career start. And Jacksonville's quarterback is a former first-round pick and a really developing and coming along well Trevor Lawrence. I think you guys are crazy for thinking that the Bengals or the Bills or the Chiefs would be shaking in their boots to play the Jags. I think you guys are I think that the Chiefs and the Bills and the Bengals, they're on a completely different level in terms of AFC dominance and talent and the type of team that they are than the Jags.
We'll see.
Well, they are,
I'm telling you,
but they're on a different level than the Titans are too. So
I'm not saying the Titans. Take the Titans out of it. But in terms of the playoff picture.
If I'm scouting both teams at this juncture of the season, not the Tennessee Titans of the first 5 or 6 weeks, I'm talking about the teams now. And I'm a head coach or players or whatnot, and you put truth serum on me or whatever it is, and you ask me, well, which one of these teams would you rather play in the playoffs right now? I'm like, give me the Titans all day, every day.
Yeah,
I don't want to
doubt
play the
that.
Jaguars right now because just like the Cincinnati Bengals, nobody thought that the Cincinnati Bengals would get to the Super Bowl last year. Everybody thought that they would lose. But everybody thought they would lose to the Tennessee Titans. But because of one guy, they were able to, and then Jamar Chase, and I get that.
Mm-hmm.
But really, if they don't have that quarterback, they're not getting nowhere near the playoffs. But because they have that quarterback, that gives them an opportunity. Jaguars they have that quarterback, and he's getting better. That's why I said when you go in the playoffs, that's one team. Just like they talk about in AFC and the NFC, don't nobody really want to play the Lions. Why? It's not that the Lions are just this great team. They're getting better, and they're playing fast, aggressive, and physical, and they're getting turnovers. And Goff is playing well, and that offense is scoring at a tremendous pace, especially at home. You don't want to play the Jaguars, especially if you have to go to their place the first round. You don't want to have to face a team that's getting better every week, and they have a quarterback.
If your choices are Jags or Titans,
I'm taking
a
Titans to play.
hot team versus a team that's riddled with injury and doesn't have their starting quarterback. That choice feels obvious. It's like, would you rather play the Ravens or the Chargers in the playoffs? Well, duh. I'd rather play the Ravens. I'd rather play Tyler Huntley.
I'm saying
than
right
Justin
now.
freaking Herbert.
I'm saying right now, who would you rather play?
But
It's
in
like,
terms of,
give me the Titans.
Yes, I'm with you. I'd rather play the Titans. I would rather play a quarterback that only, at the time, if the Titans do make the playoffs, 2 career starts under his belt in 6 years. But let's say I am Zach Taylor and the Bengals. It's not like if I get, slated to play the Jacksonville Jags, it's like, oh man, I have no idea how we're going to beat this team. And maybe the Jags do beat the Bengals. Maybe the Jags beat the Titans this weekend. They go on to play the Bengals in the playoffs, however the seeding works out. I don't know. But I'm just saying, I don't think the Jags are the type of team that every team in the AFC is circling and saying, wow, I don't want a piece of that team. I'm looking at the Bills or the Bengals or the Chiefs being the teams like that.
Oh, of course. I mean, no question. But
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is, it's a sneaky thing. You're seeing the Jags sneak up talent wise, and all of a sudden close the gap. I think on some of those teams, and you do have to go on the road if you're that wild card. You got to go on. Not that Jacksonville is some hornet's nest traditionally, but you do have to go on the road.
So somebody like Cincinnati, who would, because they're right now they're in that 4th spot.
Right. It's to be determined how.
So
Monday's,
Cincinnati would, even though if they don't win this division, and the NFL has to figure this out if they even can figure it out because of what happened in the Buffalo Bill game. Now that throws everything off, and the NFL might just say, and I don't think anybody would mind to say, just toss that game to the side and let's reconfigure some things and kind of do it that way.
Push the playoffs back a little bit.
Absolutely. So, but if they don't win the division, Cincinnati, then they would have to go to Jacksonville to play.
But I think they would. I think they win the division.
Yeah, I think they do.
And they
I
would
just
be in
think
that
Baltimore
third
is just
slot.
beat up, and they're barely skating into the playoffs themselves.
They do win the division. They would get that 3rd spot. Winner of the AFC South would get that 4th. Jonathan Hutton joins us coming up next. We'll get his thoughts on the Titans taking on the Jags this weekend. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
You love the game.
Predators win it in overtime. Touchdown, Tennessee.
We live the game.
My quarterback needs me to step up.
He can make a defense pay.
We are
1, 2, 3, 4. I think it was a good game. You had a couple of big plays.
The Game. Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
This message is for the guy who isn't perfect in the bedroom, but who is. Maybe the issue's getting it up, or keeping it up, or maybe it's finishing too soon. If any of these issues sound familiar to you, don't sweat it. HIMS can help by providing access to effective, affordable treatments for ED and other men's issues. Go to 4hims.com for a free online assessment. And if appropriate, a licensed medical provider will prescribe the treatment best for you, all from the comfort of your home. And the medication is shipped free to your door in discreet packaging. Plus, HIMS gives you unlimited follow-up visits with medical providers. Look, no one's perfect in the bedroom every time, but with HIMS, you can get a lot closer than before. And chances are, your partner will agree.
To start your free assessment today, go to forhims.com/perfect. That's forhims.com/perfect for your free assessment. forhims.com/perfect.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Wednesday, January 4th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain the spark in your bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today, Wednesday, 615-576-5000.
Now, your Game Center update.
Welcome into your Game Center update. My name is Nick Keyser. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Tennessee Titans are still preparing for the Jacksonville Jaguars on Saturday. They'll have a press conference coming up here at noon with Derrick Henry and the coordinators. Last night, the Nashville Predators won 6-3 versus the Montreal Canadiens. Tommy Novak was named the first star of the game, putting up 2 points. And Ryan Johansson joined Chase and Michelle earlier this morning and talked about the upcoming road trip that begins at the Carolina Hurricanes.
Yep, absolutely. It's a club that we've seen a lot of in the past couple of years and few years with that COVID year and whatnot, and definitely a team we want to go in there and take 2 points in their building, and it'll be one we'll feel good about for sure. And a tough building to play in and a good hockey club, like you said. So it'll be a good challenge, but we're ready for it and looking forward to the game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUZ HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 1025 and 1063.
A gunny performance. Do your job.
And the Tigers regain the lead.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 1025 and 1063, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game. We are live from the Game studio, sponsored by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. And, of course, we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Tennessee Superbook is the #1 sports book in Las Vegas. Joining us now is Outkick 360's Jonathan Hutton. Hutton, I'm not totally buying into the Jags hype. I know they're on a 4-game winning streak. I know they're getting hot, but I'm still thinking about how this is a young team, and I'm still thinking about how this is a Jags team that lost to the Broncos, that lost to the Texans earlier this season. What's your perception of this Jags team?
I'm a bit surprised, Caroline, that you're not buying in because
maybe I'm just bitter.
Well, they're young.
You're just hating. That's all.
Probably.
Oh, okay. Well, look, I don't think they're a very good team. Like, they're not. I think they're a team that could surprise some people if they're a wild card team and win a game. Okay. I don't think they're Cincinnati of last year. Okay. I'm not going to go that far. Where I was overlooking the Bengals too, and then they went on the road a couple times and won and ended up in the Super Bowl. But what they are is they are an ascending team with plenty of young talent. And unlike the Titans, they've drafted well. So they have the horizon in front of them where they can see where they're headed, or at least it's perceived we kind of see the direction they're headed. And I think they're off to a nice second half of the season where they figure some things out offensively. ETN, when they traded James Robinson to New York, ETN became the #1 guy, and he's acted like it. And guys, and Caroline, I don't know if it was like last week told you much or not, but the way they came out, and Peterson, I felt like played his starters because he needed to instill a killer mentality. Vrabel didn't necessarily have to do that. The guys he sat have been in big games. They played in playoff road atmospheres, whatever you want to call it. And by and large, the Jags have not. And I think Peterson wanted to keep the momentum going. And for a game that was meaningless in the standings, they went in and slapped Houston around after Houston had been playing well and was coming off their second win. So, yeah, I was intrigued by how they played, and they were able to rest their starters in the third quarter up 28-3. I'm buying in, and I feel like while their defense has plenty of reasons to give the Titans some optimism, they're not making nearly the mental errors or the mistakes that the Titans are right now.
Jonathan Hutton is with us, Outkick 360, and I think that's the key for the Titans. You don't make mistakes. You don't turn the football over. You don't commit dumb penalties. And to Vrabel's point, stay on schedule offensively. I think that's really all the Titans need to do. Play clean football and play the type of football that they want. Conservative passing game, run the football, play good defense, get to the quarterback. I think it's a very simple solution to success, but I think that's what it is.
It sounds simple, but there's a very slim margin for error with that, with this team right now. They were 7-3 by playing this style because they had healthier players and they had better players in the lineup. And by all means, I'm with you on the fact that there is a path for them to go and win. Because again, they're not playing Philadelphia or Dallas this week. So I think Jacksonville's good, not great. The Titans are behind them in that department. But if they can play they don't have to be mistake-free. They have to create their own turnovers. They haven't been doing that at a large margin other than the first half with Dak Prescott last week, but by and large they haven't. And in the previous game against Jacksonville, they turned the football over 3 times. Dobbs turned it over twice last week. Should have been 3 times with Diggs dropping that pick. Yeah, they can't have those type of plays. And what you're dead on with what you said about staying ahead of the chains and wanting to be in situations where you're not having to pick up 17 yards. What they cannot have is a game that moves the sticks and then you have a holding penalty that puts you back in like 3rd and 18 instead of 1st and 10. That will be crippling for this group, and this is still an offense that cannot overcome that.
You're right, Hut. This offense is not built to play from behind the chains. This offense is not built to come back from 10, 14, 17-point deficits, especially not late in the game. So, whatever they need to do in regards to getting guys back, the first step was last week, resting guys, and hopefully, you can get guys back. But one guy that we see that may not be back is David Long Jr. Is it safe to say that this team, because we look at Jeffrey Simmons, because we look at Byard and Danico Autry as being those guys on the defense, and sometimes we overlook what David Long Jr. does or what Tier Tart does, guys like that. But if you don't have David Long Jr. in the game, I think it opens up more problems than, say, not having Danico Autry, because I'm saying in this game in particular, because you got to have the guys that can cover the tight ends, that can cover the backs out of the backfield.
I'm with you, man. I think you're dead on. I think David Long was ascending into that next tier whenever he got hurt. He had that interception that saved the game in Washington. He had another pick. Was it Indy? It may have been a different game where it was a great play where he was dropped in coverage and made a pick. He was in on some really good tackles in the backfield as well. He was more than a piece to their puzzle, right? He was a solution to problems, solution to matchup problems. And that's what they lost there. And then Cunningham is banged up, but paired with him, I thought they had a pretty good tandem. And now, with Monty Rice back, Monty Rice paired with him would be good, but he's not David Long, who has really taken off. And this has been a huge setback, not just for him, but for this roster. He's not someone that's easily replaced. I'm with you. But, man, you mentioned Autry. Autry and Simmons have to take over. They have to collapse and cave in that pocket on Trevor Lawrence. because a lot of the analysts right now are saying the Titans are coming on 10 days rest or 9 days rest. That's true, but keep in mind Henry and Autry and Simmons, they sat out last Thursday. So, they've got, 13, 14 days rest from when they last played. Those three have to play at the top-tier level to overcome some of the deficiencies that you're pointing out. David Long not being available is one of them, a big one.
Do you think this game and I understand, people have been calling for Downing's job since week 3. Hell, it might have been earlier than that based upon what happened last year. Exactly. People have been calling for his job. Now, the Green Bay game, I thought he dug himself out of a hole a bit, but then we all know what happens, and then subsequently the team goes on. They continue they go on this 6-game losing streak. But do you believe this is a game where it's almost like a defining coaching moment for Downing? If you get this game right and this offense moves the ball and you win, then you're great. You might be back. If you don't, if this offense sputter or looks inconsistent, then basically you've signed your firing papers that day.
I don't know. I honestly don't know where to come down on this, Mace, because ultimately it's going to be Vrabel's decision. The other thing to keep in mind is, based on precedent with non-players, he's facing like a 4 or 5 game suspension whenever the deal is settled with whatever comes of the legal issues behind the DUI. And, you have to even prepare for that next season, even if you're bringing him back. So I don't know if this comes down to one game with a quarterback who's making his second career start on how we're going to define this. What I can tell you is they've averaged around the same amount of points from week 1 to now. So, it's not like it was good and then it dropped off like the defense has. This is different. This is they have plenty of areas to improve. And by and large, Vrabel has pointed to execution more than he has game plan. If you hear him discuss things and how he's defended Downing in the past, he feels like plays have been there and they're not being made. And if that's the case, and if he truly believes that, I don't. If he truly believes that, then you have to buy into the fact that playing in a win-and-in scenario where you've lost 6 straight, you've got Dobbs, who for some reason, he shouldn't be, but for some reason is a better option than Malik Willis, your 3rd-round pick. It's hard to just say, hey, this is a playoff or pink slip scenario for the offensive coordinator. I think if that's happening, the decision's already been made. And if it's not happening, the decision's already been made in that regard. But I can say this. Dobbs gives him a much better chance of running his offense than what Malik Willis was doing. And that was evident in the first quarter. We were having the discussion right in the press box on Thursday night about who was going to start in Jacksonville. I was having it with some people, and I said, look, I don't need to see any more. We've already learned who's starting in Jacksonville just based on this first quarter. And that's because you could see how they were rolling him out and they were actually getting him safe. And now he's paired with Henry instead of being paired with Haskins. And I think they'll lean on the run a bit more with Dobbs being able to go to 22.
Jonathan Hunt will stick around with us. Coming up next is Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
It's a new year and a new game. Robbie and Rexroad from 6 to 9.
I don't know whether to be proud of you or to tell you to leave the room. Both would be appropriate.
Chase and Michelle from 9 to 11.
Did you look at what the other teams are doing?
That's a player I want to keep an eye on.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase from 11 to 2.
You're the best running back in the league.
That's one you really need to win.
This is the way we were built. And Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman from 2 to 6.
Really the greatest player in the history of the team.
It's your new weekday lineup now on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Now is a fantastic time to sell in Nashville, but you can't do it without the intel. And no one has better intel than the Gary Ashton team. You may be wondering, what is this intel I keep hearing about? Intel so you can sell your home without any staging or showings. Intel on where to find your next home so you can sell your current one while the market's hot. Intel that helps you win the buyer battle and cash in on your home equity now. Everyone else is getting the same information and competing for the same properties. GaryAshton.com gives you the edge with the best real estate intel in Nashville. No one else even comes close. Plus, the Gary Ashton team is the official real estate agent for the Preds. Get the confidence to sell your home and find your dream address without the stress. Call the Gary Ashton team with RE/MAX Advantage today at 615-301-1650 or visit GaryAshton.com. And remember, don't sell without the intel.
In 1972, a Nashville family business story began when Bill and Beverly Finley founded Volunteer Hose and Gasket. 3 generations have grown the business into the local industry leader supplying just about anything to anybody, from the largest of contractors to your neighbor that mows his own yard. Over 1 million items in stock: belts, belting accessories, gaskets, gauges, hose fittings, hydraulics, industrial hoses, lubricants, sealing products, tubing, fire protection, and more. All at volunteerhose.net. If Volunteer Hose and Gasket doesn't have it, then you probably don't need it. Call them at 615-242-0461.
Want to kick off the new year without any credit card debt? If that sounds good to you, you can do it with Loan Pronto's Express Equity line of credit. Wipe out all those credit card bills right now. Hey, Willy Donick here. Rates are down, and it's a great move to get on more solid financial footing for the new year. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a portion of the equity you have and enjoy a rate that's a whole lot less than what the banks charge on credit cards. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity credit line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. You can access up to 95% of your home's equity. Use that money to pay off those high-interest credit card loans of any type. Credit cards, personal loans, car loans, whatever. Consolidate everything into one easy payment. Even if you did a whole total refi last year, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program and keep your main loan intact. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Hey Nashville, it's Chef Phillip at Bar Lines at the Omni Hotel. Come try our new hot dog burn ends. Nathan's all beef hot dogs, smoked over pecan wood, tossed in honey sriracha barbecue, topped with a cool crema and crisp spring onions. One of my favorites.
Attending an event downtown? Dine at Bar Lines in the Omni Nashville Hotel.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Outkick 360, Jonathan Hutton is with us now. Hutton, I think everyone in the city of Nashville and everybody in America that watches football understands how much better of an opportunity Josh Dobbs gives the Titans to win rather than Malik Willis. But in this tandem, Josh Dobbs getting Derrick Henry back this week, in this tandem of Josh Dobbs, Derrick Henry offensively, what do those two need to do to get a win this weekend?
Well, first and foremost, those two alone, I don't think can win this game because the offensive line has to do its part. That's what I fear most about this matchup, Caroline, is the O-line has been so detrimental at either keeping drives alive, not even on scoring drives, just time of possession, where you're moving the sticks or you're getting a second and short that ends up being 1st and 15. Like those are drive killers. So let's start there, and it takes Henry out of the plan for third down when he's actually on the field, even on 3rd and short. So let's start there. But Henry has to have a vintage Henry game. And keep in mind, the last 3 times, I believe, he's rushed for over 100 yards, has been a loss for this team. Like they have to be able to sustain drives, put it away, and when he has gotten to that vintage Henry look at times this season, I feel like they've gone away from him, especially during the second and third quarters of those games. So that's where I would start. I would also say that Dobbs just needs to protect the football. And it's not like you can't overcome one turnover, but they can't come in bunches. And you can't give Trevor Lawrence and this offense that has been on fire more opportunities than what they deserve based on how the game plays out. And here's the second and final thing I'll say. The offense in general has to be able to put the game away or match a score in the fourth quarter. They've been good at starting games. But it's not like the Titans are going to Jacksonville and winning by double digits. they're going to win by a field goal or 6 points, one of the two, and it's going to be a very sloppy defensive matchup, and they're going to make it ugly. And that's the style of how they have to win this one game. And the question is, can this offense move down into scoring position and get points? If they need a field goal, if they need a touchdown, whatever it might be. I can tell you this, Malik Willis gave them zero opportunity, none. And Dobbs has that ability. And with that, I think they have to match whatever Henry's going to bring as a healthy, motivated running back right now. I found it very interesting. He had a chance to go for the rushing title. And, he sat out that game on Thursday night. This shows me that they are trying to win this one game and get to the postseason and host one of these playoff matchups at least. And quite frankly, they should. And I'll end with this. They should have a playoff mentality. I know that a lot of the fans, and I don't blame the fans for this, want to go ahead and hurry up and get this season over with because it's been awful. But, there has been an off-season mindset over the last 2 months with this franchise. And I would like to see them go to Jacksonville with a postseason mindset instead of what we've seen over the last month and a half to 2 months. And that starts from the top down. Like, this is that one moment where you can kind of put all of that to rest, at least for a week or two, and you can at least point to the fact that, yet again, you've won the AFC South despite all those distractions.
Jonathan Hutton is with us. Evan Ingram, 11 catches for 162 against the Titans in the first meeting. We still aren't 100% sure that Hooker's going to be in there. We think maybe. They don't have Adams now. We know we're not likely going to see Long activated here, although maybe we'll get a miracle coming up, but it's not looking that way. So how do they adjust and try to do a better job against him?
I think they have to try something different, that's for sure. But let's start with Hooker. And if you go to the first defensive matchup, Willie, that was the game, I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I know that Simmons had a bum ankle. Autry was still out. Hooker, I don't know if he was out, but he got hurt in that game. It was one of the two. And there were other pieces to that. Fulton, they were definitely not at full strength. And throughout this stretch of losing, they've played, for the most part, pretty good, opportunistic, next-man-up defense. For the most part. They've bend but don't break, and the offense hasn't picked up the slack if you look at the scoreboard. That was the one game, though, where the defense did not show up like we have seen throughout the majority of the season.
No pass rush at all in that game.
Exactly. And that's why I go back to, it can be – we can go to the matchups in the secondary, but this has to be up front. And it's got to be Simmons and Autry. The tandem together, a healthy tandem together is fantastic. And Autry's impact in the previous game at home was fantastic. With his impact on that line of scrimmage. Simmons has been playing hurt, and here's hoping that the week off gives him a chance to get settled and have a moment where they're back to their old self a bit. Because if they collapse the pocket and you give Trevor Lawrence a chance to at least feel rattled, feel the pressure, I don't know if Evan Ingram ends up having 11 catches in a career day, and the most yards we've ever seen from him. And I believe that's the best numbers all season from any tight end in the league was in that game. So that's hard to repeat, but certainly they're capable of it if they don't get a pass rush.
We were talking to Tim Hasselbeck about this yesterday. He was talking about how Trevor Lawrence is now reading coverages better. You can't fool him as easily as you used to. And if you look at the 6-2 run that they're on, he's only thrown 2 interceptions. I think he's got 14 touchdown passes, and he didn't really have a great game last week against Houston. They didn't have to throw it that much. They got way ahead. How much better do you think he is, even since the last meeting?
I think he's comfortable. I think he's very confident. I think he trusts his staff around him, and I think the staff trusts him. And I think most importantly, you're starting to see the young group, but also the veterans they've brought in, start to really gel with him. They're in sync. And you can just tell when a team is in rhythm. Even when, if the touchdown numbers have been great, but maybe they've slipped over the last 2 weeks or whatever you want to point to. What we're not seeing are these horrific plays where, he's scrambling, he just throws it up in the air, and you're like, what is he trying to do? Like, this is the number 1 overall pick. This isn't the 5th rounder who's acting like he's in the game for the first time. He's certainly shown those moments, including this season. But what we've seen over this stretch is a more settled version of the quarterback I feel like we thought we'd see whenever he was drafted. And quite frankly, the quarterback we thought we'd see, in that final year at Clemson that ends up number 1 overall. And, it's taken this long to get him in rhythm, but I think Peterson was the perfect hire. And he's got a situation now where he has multiple weapons. You mentioned Ingram, but the wide receiving core, he has ETN. He's got an offensive line that they've invested in. And then most of their big picks over the last few years have been on the defensive side. And most of those guys now are, they've either signed somewhere else because it's been so long, or they're veterans on this roster. So I'm impressed with how they built it. And to me, it was only a matter of time before we saw Lawrence have this opportunity. And what they're faced with now, Willie, if you start looking at the quarterbacks in the AFC, he can lean into that list of quarterbacks that's right there as division winners or playoff quarterback level, which is far better in the AFC than the NFC. He can put his name on that list with more quality play, and that's how he's finished the season.
Now, Hut, I said before that this offseason is going to be probably the most important offseason that the Titans have had in the last 4 or 5 years because of, the firing of a GM, how the roster looks and whatnot, and how good Jacksonville is getting. And we don't know about Houston and Indianapolis, but we just assume that they will get better as well. What do you say to those that say, well, listen, we need to move on from Ryan Tannehill, considering, who may be free agents, whether it's Derek Carr, whether, it's San Francisco's quarterbacks. They're going Baker Mayfield. There's going to be at least 4 or 5 veteran quarterbacks that have performed well at some point in their careers that are going to be free agents. So what do you say to those that say, hey, let's move on from Ryan Tannehill and get another quarterback and kind of retool this whole roster?
Man, I'm so the big name vets. So the pipe dream scenario, would be like Brady or Rodgers says they want to play for Vrabel, right? Well, what do you have in place that those guys will require to get them here? It reminds me of like the Peyton Manning saga and the recruitment, where it's like, oh, Peyton and Kenny Britt, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty much all they had whenever they were trying to get him here. I don't know what you point to right now that is a short-term winning solution, because a lot of these vets that will be out there, you're going to point to and say, okay, they want to win and win now. It's not about a 3-year plan. And those guys are certainly capable of winning immediately. So I think that's number one. You have to factor that into what's realistic. Second, I'm certainly not trading for a quarterback. If Derek Carr is going to be cut if not traded. But there's no way I'm trading for him because they have so many holes. There's no way as a new general manager I'm coming in looking to move picks in exchange for one player. So that's second. I think the easiest, it can be easy, but it can also be like the most common sense move is to keep Ryan Tannehill, who hasn't been the issue this year. He's shown a very solid sense of toughness, playing through the ankle and then playing through it in the same game again, trying to get the surgery in order to come back, but it just wasn't feasible. It wasn't possible. To me, it makes the most logical sense to try to keep him around and try to get another quarterback. It can be Dobbs. It can be another player. I don't know if it's Willis or not. I just don't buy it yet that it's even worth continuing that development, as terrible as that sounds. Because, look, Mase, Willie, Caroline, who's the offensive coordinator? Mm-hmm. What other pieces are you able to add? What's the philosophy moving forward? Are you going defense? Are you going offense? What are you doing with Derrick Henry? Their offensive line, how many vets are on the offensive line compared to young rookies or first-round, second-year talent, And then here's the other key question. In the interview process for general manager, if I'm the general manager I'm curious how many would say, you know what, in the pitch to ownership, knowing that you're paired with Mike Vrabel, who is definitely not into a rebuild. I just don't think it's in his DNA. How do you pitch the job that you're going to do, the plan, when you throw out how you're going to make this roster better than the way John Robinson had it prior to the terrible drafts over the last 2.5, 3 years? Are you mentioning, are you leaning into a rebuild or reload, retool? And I think that's very crucial in how they select this guy because, I mean, I honestly don't know what Amy Adams-Strunks wants to hear in that regard. I know she wants to win, but she also knows the way this roster is constructed, they're not going to win. They're not very good. She's told us that. And the new GM has to come in and immediately make some moves in order to live up to that standard.
Last one for you, Hutton. You're the Titans GM. Who's your quarterback next year?
Ryan Tannehill. Now, let me preface this. If you can come up with a scenario where there's a plan and a cap in place where you can spend and wheel and deal and you feel like you can get a solid, tandem on the left side of your offensive line, and you can bring in one of these vets, and Vrabel is a great recruiting tool in this, I'm all in for that. I just don't think that's realistic. So on the realistic spectrum, as a realist here, Caroline, I'm going Ryan Tannehill because, again, I know based on the way that Vrabel's philosophy is set, they can win doing that. They have built this roster up to where they had a window, a Super Bowl window. They're not in it now, and they missed out on it last year. And 2020, I thought, was their year to do it. But they had nearly a 4,000-yard passer and a 2,000-yard rusher in the same offense with a 1,000-yard receiver and a 900-yard receiver and a 700-yard tight end. I mean, we have seen an offensive group that's been exciting to watch here with Ryan Tannehill. I think it's more about the offensive line and how you pair Traylon Burks with the next receiver that needs to be a hit. Those things, I think, are much easier to do than just going all in with one single quarterback and trying to repair everything with a Band-Aid. There's no Band-Aid for this, and I think Tannehill's the best option given the scenario.
Jonathan Hutton, Outkick 360. We appreciate you. Chat with you next week.
Yeah, thank you guys. Always enjoy this. And by the way, this is the best trio that I've ever heard on middays right now. It's so good that you guys got rid of Chase. Congratulations.
Yeah, you hear that, Chase? Yeah, we've been talking crap about Chase all week long. No, I'm just kidding. Right? Appreciate you, Hutton.
Yeah, see you guys.
Yep.
Jonathan Hutton says stick around with Ryan Tannehill. Do we agree? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Thursday night.
He risks one, they score. Going in and they score. The blast, the score.
Your Nashville Predators open a 5-game road trip against the Carolina Hurricanes.
It just comes down to players being ready.
Pre-game at 5. Face-off at 6. On your home for Nashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
More than 95% of people incarcerated will come home like I did. I'm William Arnold, director of the new Tennessee Office of Reentry. When they come home, we want to be ready to help remove barriers to employment. It's okay if you've been incarcerated or justice involved. Help is available. Go to tnworkready.com or visit your local American Job Center.
Brought to you by the Tennessee Department of Labor and Workforce Development, the Tennessee Association of Broadcasters, and this station.
tnworkready.com.
Hey, 2023 is here, and if you want to set your sights on a good financial plan, maybe you've got goals, maybe it's to add a new room to your house or overhaul and upgrade your kitchen, your bathroom, your bedroom, whatever it might be, and you need cash to do it, you can do it with Loan Pronto's Express Equity Line of Credit. Wipe out credit card bills, start the home improvement project, pay other bills that you need to get paid. Hey, rates are down, and this is a great move to get on more solid financial footing for 2023. And you don't have to do a full home refi. With the Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days, and you can access up to 95% of your home's equity, and then take that money and address whatever it is that your goals are for 2023. Even if you did a total refi last year, you can still tap the equity with this fast, easy program and keep that main loan intact. That's key. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. That's 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
At the law office of Amanda J. Gentry, we are committed to defending your rights. We have a team committed to helping you navigate the court system, whether you've been accused of a crime or you're going through a messy divorce and custody. Call our team to help you navigate this system. We are here to protect your rights, to demand your rights, to enforce your rights. 615-604-6263. 615-604-6263. AmandaJGentry.com.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe, and in the past, hair loss was inevitable, but now you have a choice for thicker, fuller hair. Trust the experts with 45 years of experience at Hair Club. They've helped more than 500,000 clients love their hair again. No matter your age, stage of hair loss, or budget, Hair Club can customize a solution for you. And for a limited time, you can get 10% off when you book a free consultation today at hairclub.com/chase. That's hairclub.com/chase.
Titans fans, the after-game party is at the all-new Superbook Lounge at Landshark Bar and Grill, Margaritaville. The Superbook Lounge is a sports viewing mecca with the largest screens on Broadway. Plus, 102.5 The Game's NFL postgame show will be broadcasting live, featuring Jonathan Hutton and Chad Withrow from Outkick 360. Party after the game at the Superbook Lounge and enjoy the ultimate in sports viewing while you take in the postgame show. Brought to you by Superbook Sports, Two Rivers Ford, and Renters Warehouse.
It's a new year and a new game. Robbie and Rex Road from 6 to 9.
I don't know whether to be proud of you or to tell you to leave the room. Both would be appropriate.
Chase and Michelle from 9 to 11.
Did you look at what the other teams were doing?
That's a player I want to keep an eye on.
Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase from 11 to 2.
You're the best running back in the league.
That's one you really need to win.
This is the way we were built. And Stillman and Company with Jared Stillman from 2 to 6.
Really the greatest player in the history of the team.
It's your new weekday lineup now on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Nashville, it's Mike Greenberg, and you're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Last one for you, Hutton. You're the Titans GM. Who's your quarterback next year?
Ryan Tannehill. Now, let me preface this. If you can come up with a scenario where there's a plan and a cap in place where you can spend and wheel and deal and you feel like you can get a solid, tandem on the left side of your offensive line, and you can bring in one of these vets, and Vrabel is a great recruiting tool in this, I'm all in for that. I just don't think that's realistic. So on the realistic spectrum, as a realist here, Caroline, I'm going Ryan Tannehill because, again, I know based on the way that Vrabel's philosophy is set, they can win doing that.
There you go. That was Jonathan Hutton. While so many Titans fans are looking at Saturday, looking at potentially making the playoffs, we're also looking ahead to 2023. This roster as currently constructed has major flaws. The offensive line needs a huge overhaul. Some of the core players on your team doesn't seem like they're going to be part of your team in 2023 or beyond. So what do you do at the quarterback position? Jonathan Hutton says you stick with Ryan Tannehill. You run it back. And I agree. I think you run it back with Ryan Tannehill because you have two options of getting another quarterback. Either you draft another quarterback, and I want to get into that situation later, or you find a free agent quarterback to come in. And in 2023, your free agent quarterbacks that you're working with are Tom Brady, which would be an upgrade, and you don't think so?
I mean, at some point.
And that's what I'm saying too. At some point,
I said that 4 years
ago,
and he's still pretty good. But
he's 46 years old, and that was my reservation too. Even Tom Brady.
But is he going to? Would Tom Brady say, "Yes, I'm going to play one more year, and I'm going to the Titans team," where he just listed all the flaws in the offensive line? Is that attractive to Tom Brady? I don't.
So
think
he walks away from
line.
You're going to walk away from Mike Evans. Who else? Who else is a receiver? Chris Godwin and that third receiver.
Russell Gage.
Yeah, so you're going to walk away from those three guys and come to what? Just one guy?
I think he hates the Bucs, though.
I know he does, but to leave them and come to just Traylon Burks.
And that's another thing is you're going to have to bolster up a whole lot of weapons on this team. And if I'm Brady, why not go to Miami? I don't know Tua's future in Miami, but you've got Tyreek Hill. You've got a solid football team. You got Jalen Waddle. Why would you not want to
You
go
got
to
a
Miami?
tight
You have
end.
a house in Miami. So if I'm Tom Brady, I don't know if he necessarily want to come to the Titans. But he's going to be a free agent in 2023. But then you're looking at your other options: Sam Darnold, Baker Mayfield, Jimmy Garoppolo, Teddy Bridgewater. Those aren't Derek Carr. Like, those aren't attractive fixes at the quarterback. Those aren't fixes. Those are just guys that you plug in, and then all of a sudden you're the Indianapolis Colts.
I think we may be asking the wrong question. The right question about the position, but the wrong guy. I'm with Hutton, and I don't know how many people want Ryan Tannehill to be around after this season, but I think he should. What has happened this year hasn't been his fault. He played well last year, but because of the playoff game, people look at that season as, it was cut short because of the quarterback, and rightfully so. I get it. But I think he's played well since he's been here. He's giving them an opportunity to win since he's been here. I think the question is, we need to address the quarterback position, but not the starting quarterback position.
Fair.
We need to address who's going to be the backup. So whether it's keeping Joshua Dobbs, this is his audition, that's what it is. Whether it's bringing in a Teddy Bridgewater or, a Baker Mayfield to be your backup, or Jacoby Brissett, or Joe Flacco, Andy Dalton. I'm looking at backups now. I'm not looking at the quarterback, like the starting quarterback position, because I think if you are able to build and plug holes where they need to be plugged, this is a better team with Ryan Tannehill at the helm. Yes, you got to upgrade the wide receiver position, but I think if anything else, you need to upgrade the backup quarterback position, because you don't want to get in a position like you're in this year, where you're searching, where you have to go to the third rounder that's completely not ready to step on a field, period. So if the Titans had a Teddy Bridgewater or a Andy Dalton or a Baker Mayfield or even Joshua Dobbs early on, would they have been better off as a team?
Yes.
So to me, if that's the answer, to me, address the backup quarterback position. This is Dobbs' tryout. You can even bring in another guy. But solidify that backup quarterback position before you even think about touching the starter. Because if you win, you're not going to be in a position to draft a quarterback, one of these, quarterbacks that we say are top 3 quarterbacks. If you win, if you lose, you still may not be in a position unless you trade up. But what do you have to trade to get to that position, to get one of those? It's not going to be Alabama's quarterback, because more than likely he's going number 1. But can you get a Stroud? Can you get one of these other quarterbacks at the 10th, 11th pick?
Well, it's going to depend. Remember, 13 teams are basically within a game of each other, right in that middle. So if the Titans lose and the right things happen, they could slide pretty high up there to where they could consider going after one of these quarterbacks one way or another. But if they win, then they're going to pick lower, and they're going to have at least a little bit of momentum, salvaging the division. So the question is, who's the new GM? Who's making the call? Does Mike Vrabel really want to do a full rebuild? That's a big question, and we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it. We'll have plenty of time. We'll have months, and we will talk about that until we're probably all sick of talking about it, honestly. And so we're just kind of scratching the surface here. But I think there's no question. There's not a better option. If you want to be competitive next year, that Tannehill will be the best option. And I agree with you. You have to be sitting there going, we can't let what happened this year happen again next year, where we just aren't ready to have anybody competitive behind him, because he's more likely to get hurt the older he gets. And they probably gambled and got burned on that part of it this year.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. Coming up next, we'll get into your thoughts on this, your calls, your texts. Who should be the Titans quarterback next year? Is it Ryan Tannehill or not? Plus, what does this Jacksonville game, What kind of implications does this game have on the future quarterback position or in 2023? We'll get into that coming up next. But hey, play silly underdog picks today. Pick 3 football underdog teams that you think will win this week for a chance to win great prizes. Play now at theGameNashville.com or the 1025 The Game app. Silly underdog picks is presented by Volunteer Hose and Gasket and Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today.
Want the latest on college football and Nashville sports?
He looks like 1,000 quarterbacks I've seen in a college game.
Join Outkick 360's Chad Withrow every Friday at 5 with Stillman and company.
The coaching staff kept him and got rid of the other guys.
He'll bring opinions and charisma for a full half hour every week.
If he's so great in the locker room, then give him a coaching gig.
Chad Withrow is presented by Two Rivers Ford. Custom order your new Ford from Two Rivers Ford on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Time to tell you about Lee Company, proud sponsor, Nashville Predators. Big win last night for Nashville. Momentum going into the very critical 5-game road trip, which starts tomorrow in Carolina. They'll move on to Ottawa a little bit later in the week, but they'll stop off in Washington, D.C., so it's a big one out east. Meanwhile, Lee Company continues to serve all of you with all kinds of different things to keep your home or your business running properly. For example, general maintenance at home or at work. You're sitting at work, you're driving around, you're heading back to work, and you know you have a maintenance issue that needs to be addressed. Well, Lee Company is just a phone call away, 615-567-1000, or you can get back to the office, make an online appointment, not even have to pick up the phone. Go to leecompany.com, you can do that. And also, while you're on that website, check out all of the different services they have to serve you, including the home maintenance plan, home renovation, and as we mentioned, general maintenance, home or at work. LeeCompany.com is the website, and give them a call at 615-567-1000.
Ring in the new year with Electronic Express. Come into any of our convenient locations for the guaranteed lowest prices on all of your favorite brands like Samsung, LG, Apple, KitchenAid, and more. Electronic Express has huge savings in every department. 4K TVs, computers, appliances, housewares, gaming, and more. Save up to 40% with up to 36 months free financing. Shop in-store or online and get free express delivery on most items. Electronic Express. We make it happen.
Hey, it's Chase McCabe, and every season is screwball season in my house. No matter the time of year, that rich, smooth taste just hits the spot. Y'all know Screwball. It's made with real whiskey, peanuts, and peanut butter, and it's just flat out delicious. It's my favorite. However you take it, as a shot, in an espresso martini, or a peanut butter old-fashioned, make it a Screwball peanut butter whiskey. Enjoy responsibly. Copyright 2022 Screwball Spirits, LLC, San Diego, California. Whiskey with natural flavors, 35% alcohol by volume.
You'd never knowingly feed your pup mystery meat or spoiled grocery store food, so why are those some of the most common protein sources in kibble today? Yep, the dog food ingredient meat meal can be made of spoiled supermarket meat and packing plant scraps.
I'm veterinarian Dr. Marty Goldstein. Your dog needs a biologically appropriate diet similar to what they would eat in the wild. That's why I developed Nature's Blend, a freeze-dried raw food made with premium cuts of meat, omega-3 rich seeds, and superfood veggies and fruit.
Bailey is 12 years old. He has been on your food for 9 bags now.
Nature's Blend is pantry safe and has 0 artificial preservatives, additives, filler, or meat meal.
He's got more energy, able to run around and play when our grandson comes.
For a limited time, save 54% off Nature's Blend and receive a free pack of premium dog treats. Go to drmartypets.com/dogs or text DOGS to 511-511.
I can't thank you enough. He's 12 and I'm enjoying every day with him.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 1 additional text. Text stop to opt out.
Sometimes he gets lonely and needs some company.
10 for 17 for 45 yards in his career with 1 interception.
This is one of those years where it's a step back for them.
And that'll create more one-on-one situations and make it easier for him to throw the ball down the field.
It's Stillman and Company.
You've got real talent.
With Jared Stillman, weekdays from 2 to 6 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
So, the pipe dream scenario, would be like Brady or Rodgers says they want to play for Vrabel, right? Well, what do you have in place that those guys will require to get them here? It reminds me of like the Peyton Manning saga and the recruitment where it's like, oh, Peyton and Kenny Britt, and it's like, yeah, that's pretty much all they had whenever they were trying to get him here. I don't know what you point to right now that is a short-term winning solution because either of these, a lot of these vets that will be out there, you're going to point to and say, okay, they want to win and win now. You know, it's not about a 3-year plan. And those guys are certainly capable of winning immediately. So I think that's number one. You have to factor that into what's realistic.
There you go. That was Jonathan Hutton on the Titans quarterback situation next year. Look, you got to be realistic about the needs that your team has. And this Titans team will have a lot of needs going into 2023. But those needs will need to be addressed no matter who your quarterback is in 2023. I know a lot of people's argument against bringing in Tom Brady is, well, he's not going to come here with the offensive line. Well, you're going to have to fix the offensive line, whether Ryan Tannehill's your quarterback, whether whoever is your quarterback. Well, Tom Brady's not going to come here if they don't have more receivers. Well, you need more receivers even with Ryan Tannehill. You're not going to leave the offensive line and the wide receiver room in disarray, even though Ryan Tannehill's been able to make something of it. I'm with Hutton. I run it back with Ryan Tannehill. I think that we all learned that Ryan Tannehill, you can hit a certain win threshold, and you can be competitive with Ryan Tannehill. He's not going to single-handedly win you a Super Bowl, but he can at least get you to that point where you can win games with him. Now, I think I look at this Jacksonville game, and I think depending on the result of this, there can be different repercussions of the quarterback situation next year, and it's not necessarily the starting quarterback situation. But if you win this game against Jacksonville, I think Josh Dobbs has a really great opportunity to eventually become your backup next year. I think that he would do something to prove to you, hey, if we need to count on you to do what we need you to do, and that's win games when you absolutely must win a game, you've shown that you can do that. When we need you to come in and do what you need to execute the plays, take care of the football, move the ball downfield, you can do that. So I think that's one way that this game this weekend affects the future of the quarterback position is if you win, Josh Dobbs has a really great opportunity to be your backup.
Well, this is and let me know if y'all agree with this. I said it last segment. I think this is a tryout for Joshua Dobbs, whether it be for this team, and I hope it is for this team, in regards to a backup role, or another team out there, the other maybe 15 teams that need a backup quarterback. He did well his first game with only being here, 8 days. Now he has 2 weeks up underneath his belt. He doesn't necessarily need to win this game. I know Titan fans want him to win. I want him to win, but I'm not basing whether I think he should be back or not on whether he wins this game or not. Now, if he plays well in this game and he's shown that he has, grasped even more of the offense and he looks like a NFL quarterback, looks like a really good back, then I'm keeping him. I'm like, listen, you got to find a way to keep Joshua Dobbs. Keep Ryan Tannehill, keep Joshua Dobbs. Now you've solidified your number one and your number two. And now you can allow Malik Willis to, learn the game at a slower pace. He doesn't have to feel as if he has to go in the game or worried about going in the game. Now he can be a rookie, learning the game of football at the NFL level. So to me, whether Dobbs wins this game or not, it's all about how he performs. If he performs well enough, then the Titans should think very long about making him a part of this team moving forward.
Are you guys in the mode of, because I think if I'm hearing you guys right, you're leaning towards keeping Tannehill, have a better backup. That sounds to me like a team that's trying to win next year. I mean, Derrick Henry will be on the roster next year. Can you really rebuild if you have those guys? I mean, I don't think Mike Vrabel is going to show up and say, well, we have the same guys, but this year we're rebuilding. Like, if you're going to rebuild, you have to really do some shuffling. You probably wouldn't bring Tannehill back. You probably would think about what you're going to do with Derrick Henry. I don't know. Or is it somewhere in between? Is it a competitive transition, which is what we've heard with the Predators, right? I mean, those are the three choices. And I think you would argue that John Robinson last year was a little bit in the competitive transition. Otherwise, you would never have traded A.J. Brown. Mm-hmm. They didn't load up in the wind. I mean, they were trying to hedge the bets a little bit and play ahead. So you do have some young guys. You're hoping that Burks develops. You're hoping that this draft class is good. You're hoping to put another good draft class. If you lose this game, your draft slot is going to move like 6 spots one way or the other, probably.
Yeah, it has
so
big draft.
Where are you guys on the spectrum here? Like, I don't know that the extreme, like, going to break it all down. I don't think you really do that in the NFL usually. But the quarterback is such a big part of it. There's no better way to lose than just show up and have an awful quarterback.
I think there's two sides that are very obvious. Like you said, tearing it all down and completely just tanking. You don't see very often, but it's not like it's completely unheard of. I mean, tanking for Tua was only a few years ago. And I think the other side of that is going all in. We saw that from the Rams last year. We knew they were going all in for a Super Bowl. Where I am is somewhere in the middle. You're not tanking, and you're not trying to completely buy in and go for it. I think with the Titans, they just need to fill in the areas that they desperately need. Allocate your resources wisely. I see so many holes on this Titans team. The offensive line desperately needs just bodies and depth. I think the wide receiver core, you absolutely need to build up. So I would say allocate your resources, meaning money and draft picks, wisely. I don't think
competitive transition.
Yeah, I guess you could call it that. But I look at it more so, fill in the pieces that you need and move forward with it. I don't think that the Titans
so it's not a rebuild
next year. No. I wouldn't view it as a rebuild.
Because there's always that loud crowd, right? And if we're talking about, you might as well just change the names in the sports. Predators, it's the same conversation. There's this faction. Break it down. We gotta have higher draft picks. We need a new quarterback. All of these. There's that group.
Yeah.
I don't know that group always thinks through what that's like. It doesn't always work, right? None of this is guaranteed. And then there's the load. The Tom Brady would be double down on everything you got and just do everything for 1 year.
For it.
Yeah, that's a 1-year deal.
You're not going to go out and get Tom Brady and then not address the offensive line.
I mean, trade your whole draft. You might as well to do that. Try to bring some veterans. You could try to go that way. And then there's the in between. And I do think Robinson was a little bit in between. Do you guys agree? The A.J. Brown trade is a hedge your bets kind of move.
It's a trying to.
And then there's a whole question of Jeffrey Simmons, right? We have a huge question there.
A.J. Brown, I think, was extending your window. Their attempt to extend your window.
But it's trying to save money. But it's trying to save money.
But always hurt.
But also try to stay in that window of not just being competitive, but winning the division and giving yourself a really good opportunity to win in the playoffs. To me, you keep your quarterback. You get rid of and I hate to term it like this, but sort of the dead weight, meaning guys that have not performed at what the contract says they should perform, or guys that are coming off an injury.
And every team will do that. Every
Taylor
team will
Lewan,
do that.
Bud Dupree, Zach Cunningham. Those are 3 guys that are making over $10 million. You move on from those guys. Now you have money, and I know there will be implications with getting rid of those guys, and you may take less of a hit if you get rid of them at a certain time. I don't think they'd take a hit with Taylor Lewan, if I'm not mistaken. But Bud Dupree, Zach Cunningham, they won't take a hit with Zach Cunningham. Robert Woods, guys like that are making, $10 million plus. You move on from those guys. Now you open yourself up to be able to go get other guys while you still have your quarterback and your running back and your receiver and your tight end. You use your first-round pick on a left tackle. Hell, what you try to do what Indianapolis did. Use majority of your picks on rebuilding that offensive line, because everybody knows in the NFL, if you get your offensive line and your defensive line straight, that's half the battle right there with the quarterback. So you got to solidify this offensive line. You got to find the backup if you choose to move on from Ben Jones. Ben Jones is a really good player, and I think he, even if you want to give him one more year, but you have to find his replacement.
And I do fear for Ben Jones's body.
Exactly, and he's been through a lot. Exactly, absolutely.
But I think it's so frequently fans want to either say, blow it all up, rebuild it, or go all in, where I really think the wisest decision for the Titans is build up in the areas that you need to build up upon and continue to try and win the division and make the playoffs and go from there. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll, of course, get into all your phone calls and texts on this. But coming up next, the Predators get a big win against the Montreal Canadiens last night. What did we see from the Predators that's different than what we've seen from some games throughout the past? And also, what does that mean moving forward? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
You love the game.
Tennessee touchdown! Middle Tennessee gets the score.
We live the game.
Just work on the little things every day.
They think the coaches are just coaches.
We are.
Ranks and he scores!
On both sides of the ball. One big possession.
Touchdown, Middle Tennessee.
The Game. Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
If you missed the latest from Stillman & Company, delivered by TriStar Moving.
So I believe they're going to win. I do. I think the Titans are going to go on the road. I think they're going to be a massive underdog. The number's 6.5 right now. I think that number will be somewhere around 8 at kickoff. And I think the Tennessee Titans are going to go into Jacksonville, and I think they're going to play Vrabel ball, and they're going to win. Josh Dobbs is not going to turn the football over. Derrick Henry is going to run the ball effectively. The defense is going to get them a turnover. And I believe that Craig Ackerman and his special teams unit are going to do their best to not screw the game up. And Jacksonville will be left there with their heads down thinking, how did that happen? We're the red hot team. We've got the quarterback. We've got the running back. We've got the coach. How did that happen? And I just see it coming. Now, I believe that's what's going to happen. I'm not telling you that is for sure what's going to happen. I'm just telling you that's what I believe. But it doesn't matter if they don't believe it.
Tune in Stillman & Company with Jared Stillman. Weekday afternoons from 2 to 6.
On ESPN.
102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Do you take pride in your work? Do you want to help build Nashville? You need to join Ironworkers Local 492. They build Nashville, working on everything from steel erection on buildings and bridges, plant maintenance, concrete, reinforcing, conveyor work, sheeting, welding, rigging, fence erecting, curtain wall, window wall, and a variety of other specialty work. They provide the best skilled iron workers for contractors and projects in Nashville. If you want to build Nashville, you want to be proud of doing it, visit ironworkers492.org. Join Ironworkers Local 492. Happy New Year from everyone at Ironworkers Local 492.
Hi guys, it's Mark. Are you struggling with erectile dysfunction? Did you know that a major medical breakthrough is now available and it isn't a pill? Today, Wednesday, January 4th, we're running a one-day special you won't want to miss out on. Hillside Medical Clinic uses the most powerful form of wave therapy. This is a technology clinically shown to repair blood vessels and improve blood flow. It's backed by 60 clinical studies, including from Cambridge. If you're ready to regain the spark in your bedroom, today is your day. Call us now and you'll qualify for the assessment and ultrasound totally free. You'll also get a gift that can produce rapid and powerful results in the bedroom in minutes. You're going to love that one, guys. Trust me. And today only, we're offering 6 tune-up treatments to our patients free. This is an unprecedented offer worth hundreds of dollars, but call today and qualify totally free. Call 615-576-5000. That's 615-576-5000. Guys, put a stop to your erectile dysfunction and get your life back. Call Hillside Medical Clinic now to qualify. This offer ends today, Wednesday, 615-576-5000.
Your Game Center update.
Welcome into your Game Center update. My name is Nick Keyser. The Nashville Predators won 6-3 last night against the Montreal Canadiens, and the Predators will now head out on a 5-game road swing until January 13th. Titans running back Derrick Henry addressed the media earlier this afternoon and was asked about improving his ball security ahead of facing the Jacksonville Jaguars on Saturday.
Derrick, you've never been known as, fumbler or anything like that. Are you doing anything extra in terms of ball security, anything individually in practice? Or?
Yeah, definitely. I've been, trying to do the best I can to work on it, harp on it. Me and Coach Drew's working on it a lot. Whenever we are doing anything with the ball, just make sure I'm keeping it high and tight, being conscious of it when I'm out there trying to fight for extra yards. That's, usually when stuff like that happens, you're not paying attention. And defensive players come from behind, raking the ball out, and just doing everything I can to make sure I take care of the ball and don't put us in no critical situation, when the ball comes out.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025thegame or visit theGameNashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
1, 2, 3, 9. I think it was a good game. Had a couple of big plays.
The Game.
A Cromwell media station.
covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willie Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willie, D-Base, 1025 1063, The Game. And hey, you can watch us streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Tennessee Superbook is the #1 sports book in Las Vegas. And of course, we are live from the Game studio, sponsored by Pillar Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical. The Predators get a big win, much needed win last night, 6-3 at home over the Montreal Canadiens. And the difference last night, Willie and D-Base, we were talking about this yesterday. David Poyle talked about the inconsistency of this hockey team, that he expected this team to be a lot more consistent. And what they needed was, it wasn't just they needed production from the top guys, the core guys, your Yossi's, your Forsbergs, your Johanssons, your Duchesnes, so on and so forth. They also hadn't gotten a lot of production from the role players. And the difference last night in that win over Montreal, the difference was they got production from the top, and it trickled down to some of the role players as well. Ekholm with a goal, Roman Josi with a goal, Matt Duchene with a goal. But also, you got Novak with a goal. You also got Cody Glass with a funky little, highly contested goal last night. That was the difference. Now, the question is, how can you keep that up? How can you keep up the production from the top all the way down to the bottom so you can start consistently getting wins against the better teams in the league? Because it's not getting any easier. 5-game road trip up for the Predators.
That young group, and we mentioned it off air, they play well. Trenton, in the group, that line play really well, and if they can get more of that, Willie, to go along with the veteran guys, the big money guys, if they can really start ramping it up, then I think they can position themselves right where they originally thought they could be or would be.
Yeah, I think. Let's put it in perspective. Last night was a game they needed to win. That was a team that they have to take advantage of. Montreal is
not a great team,
and of late, really, they were overachieving early, and reality has sort of set in. They set out to probably finish at the bottom. They want to get into the sweepstakes for Connor Bedard, who, by the way, plays in the World Junior Championships later today against Team USA. And if you're a hockey nut and you want to see the future, there's a couple of Predators prospects playing in that game as well. But the teams like Montreal, they know that they're going to be overmatched. They know it's probably a matter of time. They want to be in the lottery. They want to get ping pong balls. Nashville is not in that mode as of today. They're still fighting. They want to be a playoff team. They're a veteran team. They're built to make it to the playoffs. They've got a lot of work to do. But you mentioned it, Derek, the youth. The infusion of Tommy Novak. Juuso Parssinen is now playing with Philip Forsberg and looking really good. Cody Glass continues his progression. So you have 3 young centers that have really given them a little more versatility, a little more depth in the lineup at forward. And if you look over the last few weeks, they're actually starting to score more goals. Now, you need to score a lot against the Ducks. You need to score a lot against Montreal. You should. Those teams are not good defensive teams. Now, we'll see if they can carry it over. And if you look at what's happened against some good teams that they've played recently, Dallas, Colorado, Las Vegas, they've been in real tight games. They're not getting blown out of the water by these teams, but they haven't always been able to get over the top. They've been losing in overtime. Or the Dallas game. The only game they've lost here recently in regulation, they're 4-1-2 in the last 7. Game was tied with a minute to go, and Dallas made a play with one of their top players, Rope Hintz. So it's happening really slowly. I see some confidence building a little bit in the group. This is a really big road test coming up. 5 games. It starts in Carolina, who just had an 11-game winning streak, snapped last night. So that's going to be a tough place to win, but it's a great challenge to maybe take that confidence up to another level. Hey, you can go to Carolina and get a win like that. That would be another big boost in that area that you're looking for, Carolina, that overall consistency. Better success against the top teams. I think that's the next step in the chain.
And we talked about this yesterday, and I think it very closely mimics a trend with the Titans. that you can beat the bad teams, but you can't quite get over the hump with the good teams. The Titans couldn't compete with the Bills or couldn't beat the Bengals or the Chargers or some of the better teams in the NFL. Looking at the same thing with the Predators, they're able to beat the bad teams. They could beat Anaheim. They could put up 6 goals against Anaheim. Could beat Montreal last night, but it's that difference of getting over the hump against the good teams. But you say it's coming along slowly. We're in January. How much time do the Predators really have to get things together and start being more consistent and start consistently beating the good teams to become, playoff contenders? Because at this point, they're not even stiff in the playoffs.
Yeah, they've got to make up ground, no question. I will say this, though. In the Stanley Cup run of 2017, I was reminded of this by somebody on Twitter, but it was interesting how I got that tweet the same. I had this thought, and I could go back and look at the date. But in early January of 2017, the Predators were 12th in the West. They had won a playoff round the year before. Expectations were to get back to the playoffs, do better. They had almost the exact same record that this team has right now. So my point is, every year there are teams, and your hometown of St. Louis, it was an extreme situation in 2019. They were dead last in January, last in the league, and roared back to win. So there's time. And it's hard because, especially with the 3-point games, it's not as easy to make up ground. Somewhere in there's going to need to be a 6-7 game win streak or a situation where you go, 10-2-2 or something. That's what they're going to need. So they're not far from it, but all you can do is just keep building. I think they're moving in the right direction right now, but they certainly can't afford to have another patch that they had earlier this season where they go 0-4-2 or whatever. After Prague, they came back and they stumbled for a while. That's the margin of error they don't have now. They have to hope that their struggles for the most part are behind them. But I see 2 really good defense pairs. You take a look at what's happened since Ryan McDonough has been back in the lineup, since Alex Carrier's come back in the lineup. To your point about Montreal beating the bad teams, they were struggling. They were beating the bad teams earlier. You remember the overtime win over Anaheim, overtime shootout win over Arizona, 2 of the teams you're talking about. It was taking a lot to beat those teams. Now, the last couple times they've gone out, they've decisively smoked those teams. That, to me, that's a good sign. That's a sign of progress. And don't get me wrong, they got a long way to go, but they're making slow progress here.
And to your point about St. Louis, I have a hard time whenever people use that 2019 St. Louis team as an example of, hey, anything can happen, because I hear you. I know. Get in the playoffs, anything can happen. You can go from worst to first. That was just such an extreme example and almost like a 1 in a million year kind of thing that I can't use that as, hope to think, okay, anything can happen. I know it did happen just a few years ago, but Willy, NHL trade deadline in just about 2 months. At what point do the Predators have to say and look at their team that they have and look at the record that they have in the standings of saying, we got to just sell at the trade deadline and we have to just try and get the best draft pick that we can possibly get? Or, hey, we can turn things around in these next 2 months and actually make a run for it. At what point do you have to make that decision in the 2 months between now and the trade deadline of either 1, we can compete, or 2, we just got to cut our losses here because this isn't the kind of team that we expected to see on the ice this year?
Couple of things on that. There's 5 games before you hit the halfway point of the season. That's why I think this road trip is important, because I think the guys in that locker room, the guys on that team, look, I know Ryan McDonough didn't come here to sit here and have his name thrown out there in trade rumors. I know Matthias Ekholm doesn't want that. UC Saros, Roman, they don't want to go through a rebuild. They want to win, but they've got to show the guys at the top that they're a team that can win and go to the playoffs and play the way they're constructed to play. It's a veteran team for the most part.
And no player wants to go through a rebuild.
Exactly. But you've got to do it yourself is my point. Like David Poile has to sit there and go, look, in 2 months, I gotta see it. You have to be realistic. If they slide out, then you do have to take a look at moving guys.
But will they find suitors to trade?
I think that is an important question because there's so many teams that don't have a lot of salary cap room. Let's just say, throw out a name. Frank Saravelli threw out Matthias Ekholm's name. He would be an extremely attractive person on the trade market. He's had a great year. He's been through the battles. He can help a team. But not every team has the room to take on that salary and the remaining years on his contract with the hard salary cap. With the NFL, you can finagle a little bit more. It's harder to do that in the NHL, and the cap is only going up $1 million next year. So every GM would tell you it's not going to be really easy to free-flowingly make trades. Some will, but you mentioned it's 2 months. Mm-hmm. A lot can happen in 2 months. Yeah. Either way, right? The wheels could fall off. You could go on the road trip. You could lose 3 or 4 guys. Look at St. Louis. St. Louis looked like they were battling back. Now they're going to have to deal with not having Vladimir Tarasenko and Ryan O'Reilly for at least 4 weeks each. And that's something you can't see coming, and you can't control that. So my point is, in 2 months, there's going to be a lot of teams that look one way today and look a different way as you get a week or so in front of the trade. So I think you buy time. You see how it plays out. You weigh all of your options, right? You make phone calls and say, okay, what value do you have on Derek Mason over here? What value do you have on this defenseman, this forward? You know, if we were to consider doing this, what would be the price? You know, you start feeling it out. That's your job as the GM, right? And you can't live in a you have to be prepared for all scenarios, I guess is my point.
615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get your calls and texts on that. Willie, safe travels to Carolina.
All right.
Enjoy.
I will talk to you guys
Come back with 2
from
victories.
Tobacco Road tomorrow.
What is it? Come back with 2 victories, or what is it?
Well, we got 5 games, so let's
come
hope
back with
there's
5 victories.
Yes. That would be. I'll sign up for that. Okay, let's do that.
Come back with 5
Sounds
victories,
great.
man.
5 victories.
If you don't come back
awesome.
with 5 victories, don't come back. No, I'm just messing with you.
Don't leave me in Ottawa, D-Mase. Come on, man. I got to get back.
All right, coming up next, the Titans' future. What's the best opportunity for the Titans to set up in 2023, and how does this game against the Jags affect that? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willie, D-Mase, 1025, 1063, The Game.
Every Wednesday at 8:45. Call. Join Robbie and Rexroad for The Choice is Yours.
2 sports questions, 2 non-sports questions.
They'll answer a couple of questions about life and sports. The Choice is Yours is built by Jarrett Companies. You have a choice. So when you have a need for site and utility work, fire protection, concrete and asphalt services, the choice is simple. It's Jarrett Companies. For more, visit JarrettCompaniesInc.com. The Choice is Yours. Wednesdays at 8:45 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
You look at yourself in the mirror every day and you can't deny it anymore. Your hair is not as thick as it used to be, and it's making you feel self-conscious. Hair Club is here to save the day. For 45 years, Hair Club has helped more than 500,000 clients love their hair and feel confident again. No matter what stage of hair loss, they can help. Hair Club can customize a solution just for you. For a limited time, get 10% off when you book a free consultation today at hairclub.com/chase.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information.
This message is for the guy who isn't perfect in the bedroom, but who is. Maybe the issue's getting it up, or keeping it up, or maybe it's finishing too soon. If any of these issues sound familiar to you, don't sweat it. HIMS can help by providing access to effective, affordable treatments for ED and other men's issues. Go to 4hims.com for a free online assessment. And if appropriate, a licensed medical provider will prescribe the treatment best for you, all from the comfort of your home. And the medication is shipped free to your door in discreet packaging. Plus, HIMS gives you unlimited follow-up visits with medical providers. Look, no one's perfect in the bedroom every time, but with HIMS, you can get a lot closer than before. And chances are, your partner will agree.
To start your free assessment today, go to 4hims.com/perfect. That's 4hims.com/perfect for your free assessment. FORHIMS.com/PERFECT.
Anyone want to tell me what happened?
Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to theGameNashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Tune into this Sunday's NFL Game of the Week on 94.9 The Fan. This week's game will feature the Dallas Cowboys against the Washington Commanders at 3:25 p.m. NFL Game of the Week brought to you by Red Spirits and Wine in Bellevue and Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Download their app today. Now, the Titans have big decisions to make for their football team across the board, period. Like, point blank. They have a lot of big decisions to make in 2023. But more specifically at the quarterback position. Starting quarterback, I say run it back with Ryan Tannehill. D-Mase, I think you agree. Run it back with Ryan Tannehill. We had Jonathan Hutton, Outkick 360 earlier on the show. He said the same thing. Run it back with Ryan Tannehill. But I think this game against the Jacksonville Jaguars have big implications for backup quarterback and maybe even starting quarterback. Because you win this game. Josh Dobbs showed you need to win one game. He can do that. You need him to just take care of the football, run the offense effectively. If the Titans win this game, Josh Dobbs showed you, hey, I can do that. And that's something that the Titans didn't have at the backup quarterback position this year. And that was 100% because of the Titans. I don't want to put that blame completely on Malik Willis because I know he did it. I mean, he was the backup quarterback, but that was on the Titans for not finding a more, productive or better solution at backup quarterback. So I think you win this game. I think Josh Dobbs has made a very good case of being your backup quarterback.
Yeah, he does. At least he has a case to be in camp to have a contract for next season, because I don't know how the whole, you come in toward the end of the season and they sign you to a contract. Does it? I'm sure it just lasts for that season, and then if they choose to pick up or give him another contract moving forward, that's their decision. But I think if he does come out and run this offense efficiently, again, he doesn't. Even though we want him to win the game, I don't think he necessarily has to win the game in a sense, but he has to play well enough to give them an opportunity to win the game.
Give them a shot.
Exactly. Don't make the mistakes. Be efficient. Run the offense the way it needs. Have command in the huddle, which he showed last week.
And do what the Titans, I believe, ask of Ryan Tannehill.
Exactly.
Don't turn the football over. You don't need to do anything fancy. We don't need you to be Patrick Mahomes' 375 passing yards. 200 to 250 passing yards, a touchdown or two, don't turn the ball over. That's Tannehill ball. So if Josh Dobbs goes out and does that and does his job and the Titans still lose, well, okay, Josh Dobbs still showed you that he can execute this offense as they ask the starting quarterback to as well.
Yeah, so to me, the quarterback position, I think you have your starter moving forward. He needs to stay healthy, obviously, but this is the first year he's really been riddled with injury since he's been here. So I'm just going to put it in its own category. I think next year will be a little bit better. They got to solidify the offensive line because why did he get hurt? Why did he twist the ankle? Because he gets sacked and someone falls on him. So to me, the starting quarterback position is good. They need to find the backup. And if Joshua Dobbs is showing you that he can be a capable backup, a backup that can come in and win you 1 or 2 games, possibly even 3, if the situation comes up, then you keep him. But if you do that, then you need to make sure that you have enough resources to go get the players that you need. First and foremost, wherever you're picking in the draft, you need to get you a left tackle. You have to. It's imperative that they get you a left tackle. Why do you think that the Jacksonville Jaguars, with their first ever pick, and hopefully I'm not wrong on this, their first ever pick, they picked Tony Boselli, their left tackle. Where's Tony Boselli now? In the Hall of Fame. They did that for a reason, because they understood that if we solidify this offensive line, then we are on our way. We got to get our quarterback. We understand. They went out and they got their quarterback. They got a more of a veteran quarterback in not Berline, but the lefty. I forget his name now. But they went out and got them a quarterback. Then they went and got wide receivers, and then they drafted their running back. They solidified their defense. So if the Titans are going to, if they want to build this team while still being competitive, still making the playoffs, you keep Ryan Tannehill as your quarterback. You find you a backup that can be Dobbs. If he shows you that he's a capable backup, then make him your backup. But you need to solidify that offensive line, and you need, with your first pick, if you're not in a position to draft a quarterback, you need to get a left tackle.
And I think, too, if the Titans do lose this game, they have a top 10 pick.
Yeah.
And I'm with you. I think that there are far too many needs on this team that aren't the quarterback, and you need to address the offensive line. Because I always say, on the offensive line, you're not going to find a legitimate starting left tackle when you're picking 25th, 6th, 7th, 8th in the draft. And that's where the Titans have been picking. And if you don't draft one, you're going to have to dish out a whole lot of money for a legitimate starting left tackle in the league. But if the Titans get the opportunity at a top 10 pick, which they probably will, let's say if they do lose this game against the Jags, right now they'd be picking 11th. They lose to the Jags, they probably slide up to the 10th pick, maybe the 9th pick, but I doubt it because Carolina's probably going to get that 9th pick and go 6 and 11. But I would say you got to take an offensive lineman. But then that also opens up questions about the quarterback in the 2024 season. Because if Ryan Tannehill is your starting quarterback in 2023, which I think is the wisest decision for the Titans where it stands right now, he's probably not your quarterback in 24. You're on the hook with him through 23. You're on the hook for about, you're on the hook for about $27 million with a $19 million-ish cap hit next year. You're not on the hook for him in 2024.
The only scenario I would say that I can see them possibly parting ways with Ryan Tannehill is if they lose this game and they know that this may be the only year that we get a top 10 pick. So do we use it on a quarterback now if he's there? Or do we roll the dice, keep Tannehill, get the left tackle, and then hope that we're in a position with maybe more draft capital that we can trade up and get the quarterback that we want? It's all of a roll of the dice. Yeah. Do you want to do it this year or do you want to possibly do it next year? Because you're going to have to do it pretty soon. Either way, you're going to have to find your next starting quarterback within the next 2 years. Whether, you draft them this year or you find a way to draft them next year.
And running it back with Ryan Tannehill and Derrick Henry is still going to be part of the core of this team. Jeffrey Simmons is going to get re-signed to be part of the core of this team. With those players and that amount of talent on this team, you're not going to be bad enough to get a top 3, 4, 5 pick to get a quarterback. So you're going to have to dish out picks at some point to either move up to pick one or dish out picks and money to go find another quarterback.
Well, if you can do it, and that's why this is the tricky part. If you can do it this year, do you do it and move on from Tannehill? Or do you do it, keep Tannehill, and sort of allow that transition to naturally happen where you bring in your first rounder, let him sit, and then away he goes?
Well, let's look. So if the Titans, let's say the Titans lose this weekend, and I understand some fans almost wanting the Titans to lose this weekend. I disagree because I think that there's so much value in making the playoffs. Yeah. But I do understand some fans thinking, hey, lose this game, get a better draft pick, get better weapons for next year, maybe even get a quarterback. Let's say Titans do lose this game. They move up to 10. Well, Houston will get that top pick. I don't know how Houston feels about Davis Mills and his future quarterback. I think Houston would probably be a suitor for a quarterback in this year's draft. So that's a quarterback taken off the board. Chicago, they're not going to take one. Seattle, I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you move on from Geno Smith? He's a Pro Bowler this year. But do the Seahawks see him as the future at quarterback? I don't know. Maybe they take one. Maybe they don't. Arizona
can't take. They got too much money invested.
Well, Kyler's gone next year.
Is he?
Tore his ACL.
Yeah, so you have to get.
Yeah, so are you going to just kind of, go in with Trace McSorley next year or pick up a free agent quarterback just to get you through?
Yeah, because you're on the hook for a lot of money with Kyler Murray.
You're on the hook for a lot of money, and they did that to themselves. Yeah. I don't understand why they did that.
I don't feel sad for them.
So I don't know if Arizona would pick a quarterback or not. Indianapolis probably wants to pick a quarterback. Detroit, probably not. Atlanta, Las Vegas, Carolina. Las Vegas needs a quarterback. Las Vegas just said they're moving on from Derek Carr. Atlanta, they already proved Marcus isn't their guy. They already showed Marcus is not their guy. Carolina, they probably want a quarterback. Carolina's been on the quarterback carousel for the past 2 seasons. So that's what? 4, 5, 6 teams in the top 9 that probably do want a quarterback or would be in the market for a quarterback. If the Titans pick 10, you're not finding your future quarterback at number 10 when there's 3 legitimate, really good elite quarterbacks in this draft, and that's just what we think now. That's not, looking ahead to the future to see if they really do come to fruition.
Yeah, it's going to. That's why I said it's sort of a roll of a dice with the Titans. I know fans want them to lose to move up in the draft. I get it. I understand it, but I think you're better served if you go out and you win this game, advance in the playoffs. Because not only do you have to get your quarterback, but you have to sign guys back. And more importantly, you got to sign Jeffrey Simmons back. And when Jeffrey Simmons looks up and look at that room, what does he see? Does he see a team that can continue to compete? Or does he see a team that is going downhill and downhill fast? That's going to be his determining factor because he's going to get the money wherever he goes. Just like A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
He's going to get the money wherever he goes. It just depends on, am I going to stay here because I like the direction and I like the roster? Or am I going to go somewhere else because I just don't have time to wait around 2 or 3 years to hopefully win a Super Bowl.
Coming up next, we'll get into your thoughts on this, your calls, your texts. I see your phones lining up. We'll get into those coming up next. But hey, be caller 3 now, caller 3, to win a pair of tickets to see Alter Bridge at the Ryman Auditorium on Monday, January 30th. Caller 3. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Hey, this is Roman Yossi, and this is Smashwell.
Going to the front of the net, he scores. What a gorgeous move. Roman Yossi.
You're listening to the flagship of the Nashville Predators radio network, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Signs First, Nashville's foremost destination for event signage and physical media. Located just minutes from Broadway, our team of design, production, and installation professionals can help you create an unforgettable event. Stand out. Be different. Go to sfnash.com.
Hey, it's Hutton. Interest rates are rising, but not at Spring Hill Heating and Cooling. Replace your old unit fast before new regulations increase prices up to 20%. Get a new unit today at today's price and receive up to $1,500 off or get 18 months of no payments. So the first payment is not until spring of 2024. At Spring Hill Heating and Cooling, all new systems come with a 10-year parts and labor warranty. Schedule your appointment now at springhillac.com. That's springhillac.com.
The Game text line is driven by Wilson County Hyundai. Online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Be a part of the conversation. Call or text the Game at 615-737-1025.
Hello, Tennessee Power Hour listeners. My name is Hunter Briley, and I am with Regal Realty Group.
And my name is Richard Van Clive. I'm also with Regal Realty Group.
And we are great friends that treat our clients like great friends.
Because that's how we want to be treated.
We are also born and raised here in Middle Tennessee and support our local team.
And with an economy that's affecting everything except the real estate market, it's important to do business with friends that can tell you what's what.
From contract to closing, everything in between, we have you covered. Go to regalrg.com to get started. And happy football season.
If you came across someone struggling with hunger, how would you recognize them? Would you notice a 16-year-old boy who got his first job,
not for extra spending money, but to help feed his little sisters?
Or a mother who's in between jobs and sometimes goes to bed hungry so her kids can have dinner? I am the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger. I am hungered in America.
Hunger can be hard to recognize. Learn why at IamHungeredInAmerica.org. Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Can't get enough Vanderbilt basketball?
Intercepted right all by himself for a one-hand flush.
Your home for the Commodores is 93.3 Classic Hits.
Put it up. It's good. Count it.
Join Coach Jerry Stackhouse and his team on their journey through the SEC.
Pulls a trigger. Yes, from 3.
Check out Vandy Hoops on 93.3 Classic Hits and the Classic Hits app.
Hey, this is Pete Weber. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
The game and obviously the magnitude of the game, right? Everything around it. It's what you dream of playing in NFL football. You want to play meaningful football, especially in December and January, right? You want to play in those playoff games. So you want to be a part of that. So I've watched and been a part of teams that have been a part of that. So to play in it, there's a lot of excitement around it, but also there's also recognition in the preparation, right? The lead up to it, the maximizing today being Tuesday, a Wednesday practice, maximizing those reps and my encounters with my teammates and helping them get prepared, help them see what I'm seeing from the quarterback position, so that when Saturday comes, we just go play football and all the emotions out of it is taken away. We're able to just lock in on each play and just go play ball.
There you go. That was Josh Dobbs in the locker room yesterday. I don't know how you don't love this guy. Like every single media availability, I'm like, you just say the right things every single time.
Yeah, I mean, he's been with some good organizations, and he knows he acts like a starting quarterback.
Just gets it.
He gets it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He knows what to say, when to say it, how to say it. He's a starting quarterback. That's what starting quarterbacks in this league do. They go to the podium and they're Joshua Dobbs.
Right to your phones as promised. Phone lines driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. 615-737-1025 is our phone number if you have a thought. But David in Arkansas texts in and says, losing to get a draft pick is ridiculous. It's only 7 or 8 spots. You can trade up to those spots if you really wanted to. I don't understand those fans who think that. I want a playoff spot. Anything can happen once you get there. Look at the giant Super Bowl team that took down the mighty Patriots' undefeated season. Look, I agree. Mm-hmm. I live in the camp of win this game. Hearing that clip from Josh Dobbs, he calls this game a big game because this is a big game because it opens up opportunities in the playoffs. Do I feel confident in the Titans' chances of winning a wild card game, getting the divisional round of the playoffs, knocking off, a Bengals, a Chiefs, a Bills, so on and so forth on the road? No. I really don't, honestly, but I'm not going to count out the possibility. At least the possibility is there if you win this game. So I'm with David in Arkansas on that. Mm-hmm. Of making the playoffs is a really freaking big deal for a reason. But I'm not going to discredit those fans that are looking ahead to the draft because this texture says it's only 7 or 8 spots. Well, that's a whole heck of a lot of spots.
That's a lot of spots, and I don't think the Titans have enough draft equity in a sense to move up that many spots in this year's draft. They don't have things they can give to people, picks or whatnot to be able to get into a position to draft a Stroud or kid out of Alabama, Bryce Young, or any other kid down the street at Kentucky. Mm-hmm. They don't have enough to give to move up that many spots. You know how many people, that play in the NFL for a long time and never even make it to the playoffs? There's a lot of guys that have played a lot of years and haven't even sniffed the playoffs. So I don't understand, I don't want to make the playoffs. I don't want to make the playoffs. No, this is why you play this game. And as fans, this is why you cheer for your team, to make the playoffs. Why? Because you're only one of 14 teams, 7 from the AFC, 7 from the NFC, to make the playoffs. So why wouldn't you want to make it if you got opportunity? Because, frankly, this could be the last time they make the playoffs in a bit. Mm-hmm. The division is going to get better. How much better? I don't know. But the Titans got a lot of holes to fill, okay? And it's going to take a minute. So there's nothing saying that, okay, if they don't make it to the playoffs this year, they're going to have a high draft pick and they're going to make it next year. No, that's not going to happen. Mm-hmm. Jacksonville thought they were going to make it after they went to the AFC Championship game. They didn't make it. They hadn't made it back. So when you got an opportunity to make the playoffs, regardless of how your team looks, you make the playoffs. And the fans should be hoping that you make the playoffs. What you should be hoping for and wishing for is that Amy make the right decision in hiring the right GM. That's what everyone should be saying. Please let her make the right decision and hire the right GM and keep this team on track. Because if they make the playoffs or if they don't make the playoffs, they're more than one guy away from being a legit Super Bowl contender. So it's not like, okay, let's lose, not get in the playoffs because we're only one left tackle away from making the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Nah, that's not the case.
Another texter texts in and says you'd have to trade Derrick Henry if you want to get Tom Brady. Why?
Why? Yeah, Tom's a
Brady's
free agent.
A free agent.
Yeah.
You can just sign him.
Exactly.
And it's not like it's a money issue.
Tom he wants to win. So wherever he goes, he's not going to be asking for the world.
And do you think that he would come to the Titans if they didn't have Derrick Henry?
Definitely wouldn't.
No.
Why?
Why would you?
Exactly.
When there are other suitors like Miami that have, plenty of weapons offensively, San Francisco, when they've got plenty of weapons offensively. No, Tom Brady is a free agent. You won't have to get anything in return in order to get Tom Brady. One texter texts in and says, bring Tannehill back. We've got Burks and Chig. We could put Hilliard or Kyle Phillips in the slot, Henry running the ball, draft all offensive linemen. I mean, I hear the love on Kyle Phillips and some of these younger guys, but you're going to need a legitimate burner number one wide receiver to go alongside Treylon Burks. All the young guys, great. You need to bolster up the passing game in addition to the offensive line as well. But I'm with this texture. You bring Tannehill back, allocate your resources elsewhere.
Yeah, bring Tannehill back, solidify or try to solidify that offensive line. Again, like you said, Caroline, you're going to need another playmaker alongside Treylon Burks. I think Kyle Phillips, once he comes back, and hopefully he stays healthy. From what he's shown me, he's a good player. He will fit that slot role perfectly for the Tennessee Titans. So you're going to have to get someone opposite Treylon Burks, whether that be getting a veteran guy that have played some years, that have played well this prior year, that's going to be a free agent, or you draft a guy late in the first, early in the second, somewhere, but you need another playmaker alongside Treylon Burks.
Bob is up next on the Titans. What's up, Bob?
Hey, y'all, I'm with y'all. You got to kind of retool what we've got. I mean, I think we still got the core of what we need, but people will talk about, let's just re-blow it up. Well, my question is, if you're going to blow it up, you might as well blow it up completely, and you might trade Simmons and see what you can get for him, because there's no use blowing it up and paying Simmons what he deserves for next year and just, not have anything there to go along with it. It kind of reminds me of when we had Casey. By the time Casey started seeing what we could become, he had basically been, he was out of his prime. So, I mean, you might as well get something for Simmons, but why in the world would you want to completely blow everything up? We have the cores, and if we can get a line and get a burner, we've got there, and if we can get a person who knows how to call some plays decently, we've got the tools there to work with rather than just blow the whole thing up.
Yep. Thanks for your call, Bob. Oh, go ahead. Okay, thanks for your call, Bob. I'm with him.
Yeah.
I would say as long as I think the line of demarcation between, continuing to just add pieces and be competitive and you're kind of tanking for a better draft pick is Jeffrey Simmons.
Yes.
You're not going to have Derrick Henry for the long haul. You're not going to have Ryan Tannehill in the long haul. That's just the reality of the situation. But you can continue to plug in those holes, redesign your offense, bring in a new offensive coordinator, please. But as long as Jeffrey Simmons is on this team and as long as you're paying Jeffrey Simmons what I imagine that he will want and what I imagine the Titans will pay him, you're not blowing it up.
No, you can't.
You don't do that.
You can't completely dismantle the team, because if you do that, then why in the hell would Jeffrey Simmons want to stay? He brought up a perfect example. You look at what they had 4 or 5 years ago with why am I forgetting the defensive tackle name now? He just said it.
Jarrell Casey?
Yeah, Jarrell Casey. Jarrell Casey, in his prime, was one of the best defensive tackles in the National Football League. And he got nothing out of it, in regards to really having that shot of going to the Super Bowl. When he finally realized that they were getting ready to release him. When they finally started winning and getting to that point, well, they were getting ready to move on from him.
Yeah.
You don't want to be in that same position with Jeffrey Simmons, because if you dismantle this team, why, if I'm Jeffrey Simmons, because I know I'm going to get my money anywhere I go, why would I want to stay here and hope and pray that y'all make the right moves that we're going to start immediately winning football games?
And it depends on whatever his priorities are. Could be staying with the Titans.
Yeah.
It could be money. It could be winning a championship. And any of those three is valid. But if his priority is winning a championship, you sell off all of your assets. There's no chance Jeffrey Simmons would be able to win a championship here.
In NFL now, you can both win a championship and get your money.
Henry Texan says Tom Brady, the Titans, is ridiculous. A statue behind 5 traffic cones throwing to the worst wide receiver group. Look, I understand. I don't care who the quarterback is. I don't care if it's Ryan Tannehill. I don't care if it's Tom Brady. I don't care if it's Joe Flacco. This Titans team is going to have to improve the offensive line. It's not going to be run it back with Dennis Daly at left tackle. And then, you just move forward into 2023. That's not going to be the case. So they're going to have to fix the offensive line no matter what, if that's Tom Brady or not. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll continue to get into your thoughts, your calls, your texts on the Tennessee Titans. The keys to victory for the Titans against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Can they do it? And is it enough? All of that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025, 1063 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown!
Tim. ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
How that team is built, I think there's a lot to like about them.
Every Tuesday at noon, Tim with Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Presented by Red Spirit and Wine in Bellevue on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Want to kick off the new year without any credit card debt? If that sounds good to you, you can do it with Loan Pronto's Express Equity Line of Credit. Wipe out all those credit card bills right now. Hey, Willy Donick here. Rates are down, and it's a great move to get on more solid financial footing for the new year. You don't have to do a full home refi. You can tap a portion of the equity you have and enjoy a rate that's a whole lot less than what the banks charge on credit cards. With Loan Pronto's Express Equity Credit Line, you can close in 7 to 10 days. You can access up to 95% of your home's equity. Use that money to pay off those high-interest credit card loans of any type. Credit cards, personal loans, car loans, whatever. Consolidate everything into one easy payment. Even if you did a whole total refi last year, you can tap the equity with this fast, easy program and keep your main loan intact. Call Loan Pronto, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781, subject to lender approval.
OrderGreen.com. You know them by now. They're my only choice for high-quality THC and CBD products, and they're delivered right to my doorstep. Hey, folks, Joe Rexroad here. Yes, you heard that right. OrderGreen.com will send cannabis products right to you with discreet same-day shipping. OrderGreen.com has been great for me. Just what I need during this busy time of year. Takes the edge off physically, mentally. Terrific products. And if you use promo code Joe20, you're going to get 20% off your first purchase at OrderGreen.com. Do you have a subscription to OrderGreen.com? It'd be a lot cooler if you did. You won't be able to tell if you're in Colorado or Tennessee. Trust me. That's OrderGreen.com.
Robbie Stanley.
They get a lead in that game and just totally close the door.
Joe Rexroad.
If he plays next year, it's disastrous.
Robbie and Rexroad. Mornings from 6 to 10 on Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and on the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. Mike Vrabel is incredibly cryptic at some times, but I think you just have to read into what he's saying. Sometimes he lays it out there, plain and simple, exactly what you need to hear. And what I think he's telling us is exactly what he wants the Titans to do on Saturday against the Jags. And it's not a different message than what he's been telling us, but I'm sure he's been telling the team over the past few weeks. But it's been what's hurting the Titans over the past few weeks. It's what I think is the root of this losing streak that the Titans have been experiencing. So what's the number one key to the Titans beating the Jags? This was Mike Vrabel yesterday.
Where you have to be at your best. I think everybody has to be at their best.
in all three phases. And there's been some games where, I thought we played well offensively, whether it's, in a 4-minute drive where, you're kneeling on the ball and you're not, you don't have to go down and score. Not to say that that's, an excuse for, where we're at, from a production standpoint or a scoring standpoint. But we have to be, at our best, not turning the football over, or when we're in a 2-minute drive to go down there and be able to score points, to win a football game.
So there you go. I think there was two things. Don't turn the football over.
Mm-hmm.
That's what cost the Titans the first game against the Jags. Jags scored 17 points off of turnovers, and that was the game. That was the difference of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Jacksonville won by 2 touchdowns. The second thing is just move the ball down the field and score. And that's been incredibly difficult for the Titans over the past few weeks. And, of course, you've got injuries. Of course, you've got offensive line woes. Part of that is play calling. But when the keys to the game are staying on schedule offensively, moving the chains, don't get in third and long situations, and when it's taking care of the football, one, the Titans haven't proven that they could do that over the past few weeks. Does that change this week? And two, is just taking care of the football and moving the ball and getting into scoring opportunities, is that enough?
Well, it's going to have to be enough considering where this team is at, health-wise. This team has been okay in the first half. Let's say a little bit better than okay. But the second halves all season, it didn't just start, in the Jacksonville game, but the second half of this whole season has been bad for this team. So when Vrabel says we got to stay on schedule, y'all hadn't stayed on schedule all season. If you're talking about a complete game, his team hadn't stayed on schedule all season. Now, what is really biting them in the rear end is now they're starting to turn. Not only are they not staying on schedule, they're turning the ball over too. So you can't have both of them. You can't have not staying on schedule and turning the ball over. If you're going to have turnovers in games, which sometimes it happens, you have to be able to play a complete game, meaning staying on course, first half and second half. This team hadn't been able to do that. So whether you're not turning the ball over or not, whether you're turning the ball over or not, the second halves of this season, each second half of each game has been bad for the Tennessee Titans. So they got to find a way to stay on task for a full game, not just in the first half, for a full game. And then they must hold on to the football because, again, uncharacteristically, Derrick Henry has fumbled the ball too many times. He's given the ball away too many times. And you can't have your best player giving up the ball. Because you can't bench him. You can't do anything. Like if it was Kyle Phillips playing or Hassan Haskins playing and he fumbles the ball 3 times, he's not playing no more. He's out the game. We're not getting back in the game till you figure out a way to hold on to the football. You can't do that to Derrick Henry. So Derrick Henry must hold on to the football because it's not them throwing interceptions when Ryan Tannehill or, at this time Joshua Dobbs is in a game. It's about the fumbles that are being, given to the other team by our star player. And you just can't have that.
And, when you hand them opportunities, this isn't a team that's equipped to, one, get themselves out of third and long situations. And you get into third and long situations by, making dumb decisions and committing penalties. This team isn't equipped to be able to give up points on turnovers and dig themselves out of that hole. The offense just isn't good enough. To your point, Derek, this team was able to do enough in the first half against some of the bad teams that they played earlier in the season, the Raiders, the Commanders before they turned the whole deal around later on in the season, the Colts, the Texans. Even if they didn't have a booming offensive second half, they still did enough in the first half to be able to hold a lead and didn't do enough in the second half to be able to give up that lead. Now, they haven't been doing that as of late, and that's completely cost them games. But I know that this is going to be a big game for Derrick Henry, of course. this is going to be a big game for Josh Dobbs. And that's what I turn to of, you got to be able to move the football. You got to be able to hold on to the football. And you got to get yourself in scoring situations. My question is that enough? I don't think that's enough, because I think that it also comes down to the defensive line. This has to be a day for the defensive line. You have Danique Autry back. You have Jeffrey Simmons back. Jeffrey Simmons back, probably more well-rested this week than he has been in this last stretch of losing games. But I think that's enough. Get to the quarterback, move the football, don't turn it over. The Titans don't have to do anything miraculous in order to beat the Jags. I understand that the Jags are a team that's getting hotter than they have been all season long. I understand that this is a Jags team that's starting to figure out ways to win football games. But this is still a Jags team that's young. And I don't think that the Titans are so outmatched in terms of talent that they can't overcome this Jags team. So just do what you need to do. Do what this team is equipped to do to win games. Get to the quarterback, play good defense, run the football, play clean. That's all I think that they need to do. This isn't some Jags team that's going to be able to compete with the Bills for the AFC. I'm not bought into them that much.
Nah, they're not going to be able. They're not at that stage yet, I don't believe. But then again, anything in the NFL can happen when you put two good teams together, even if one is better than the other. But you're right. The Titans, they need to play a full game. They need to not turn the ball over. But even at that, they need to get turnovers. They need to somehow, some way force, Trevor Lawrence into a turnover. They need to get fumbles. The only way they do that is if they're playing fast and physical. Are they capable of doing it at this juncture of the season? Well, they're getting guys back. So hopefully they're healthy enough and they're rested enough that this defense can fly around and get turnovers. Because to me, if they don't get turnovers, it's going to be difficult for them to win the game. Again, if it's everything's status quo, they don't turn the ball over, Jacksonville don't turn the ball over, it's going to be a tough game to win for the Titans, because the Titans haven't played a complete game. They played all but one team complete, and that was the Green Bay Packers. No other time during the season have they played a first half and a second half. Well, Saturday, they're going to have to play a full game, and they must get turnovers and not turn the ball over in order to beat Jacksonville, to me.
That's going to do it for us today. Stillman & Company is up next. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m.
Peace.